in Houston, Texas. This is New York Mets baseball. Tonight, the Mets take on the Houston Astros. Participating advertisers are Budweiser, the king of beers, and proud sponsor of the U.S. Olympic team. For all you do, this Bud's for you. Manufacturers Hanover, the financial source worldwide. Datsun Nissan, builders of high-quality cars and trucks for 50 years. Available at your Datsun dealer. Garcia Vega, its natural leaf wrapper gives you rich tobacco taste. Garcia Vega, still an honest cigar. Express mail service from the post office. We deliver excellence for less. And the Good Olds Guys, the Oldsmobile dealers of New York, New Jersey, and Southern Connecticut. Pitching for the New York Mets tonight, Sid Fernandez, his New York Met debut, 6-5 and a 2.47 ERA at Tidewater this year. For the Astros, it's Mike Scott, the former Met, 4-6 and a 4.65 ERA.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm Ralph Kiner, along with Tim McCarver and Steve Zabriskie, inside at the Astrodome. Outside, the temperature in the middle 90s, but inside, perfect for baseball as the Mets take on Houston for the fourth time this year. The Mets have won all three games here in the Astrodome and looking for a three-game sweep. Mets in first place, and today they have a young left-hander going for the first time.
And it's going to be interesting to see how Sid Fernandez does. He struck out 121 in the International League. He led the International League in strikeouts. He's a strikeout pitcher, throws a high, hard one, and I know the Mets can welcome Sid Fernandez to what is already an excellent pitching staff.
And going for Houston will be Mike Scott, a former Met, so a couple of Mets in the ballpark here tonight. Right now we're getting set for our national anthem. We have the color guard marching out to the pitcher's mound area, and very shortly we'll have the national anthem. Presenting the lineup cards for the New York Mets. Mets come into the action with a record of 50-35. Houston with a record of 43-48. Mets are one game up in the Cubs, with the Cubs losing today. Houston 10 games back there in fourth place. The umpires for the game tonight: Randy Marsh behind home plate, Paul Runge, the umpire at first base, Dave Pallone, the umpire at second base, and Bob Engel, the umpire at third. And that is the newcomer, Sid Fernandez, taking his warm-up pitches for Mel Stoudemire and the New York Mets. Fernandez brought up from Tidewater. He was leading the International League in strikeouts there. He had a record going of 6 wins and 5 losses. Defensively for Houston, Cabell, Doran, Reynolds, and Garner in the infield. In the outfield, it's Cruz, Bass, and Poole. Mark Bailey, the catcher, and on the mound, former Met, Mike Scott with a record of 4-6. He has an earned run average of 4.65. He has walked 28, struck out 43 in 91 innings. Mike Scott going for Houston.
And the lineup for the New York Mets: Wally Backman will lead off and play second base. Mookie Wilson, the center fielder, batting second. Keith Hernandez will be at first base and hit third. Darryl Strawberry in right, batting fourth. George Foster has been swinging the bat well lately, the left fielder, batting fifth. Hubie Brooks, the third baseman, batting sixth. Mike Fitzgerald will be behind the plate tonight and bat seventh. Ron Gardenhire, the shortstop, batting eighth. And Sid Fernandez, the pitcher, batting ninth. And if you're wondering how Mike Fitzgerald will call the game tonight, we had a chance to ask him that before the game, and here were his comments.
Well, to tell you the truth, Timmy, we're going to throw all fastballs at him pretty much. We're going to go at him hard with Sid's fastball. He's got a great fastball. And if that doesn't work, we might throw a few breaking balls, but pretty much we're going to go at him hard with the fastball.
So Mike Fitzgerald will have the distinction of catching Fernandez in his first shot here for the Mets. He has appeared in the major leagues with the Dodgers. He has a record of 0-1 while pitching for Los Angeles last year. And for the Mets, it'll be Wally Backman to lead off. Backman batting at .282 for the year, no home runs, 12 runs batted in. He is batting .286 against Houston pitching this year with 6 hits and 21 times up. This time last year, the Mets had a record of 31-54. They were in 6th place, 13 games out of first. The first pitch of the game, a fastball by Mike Scott. Backman batting .329, 26 hits in his last 79 times up in his last 21 ball games. And that's ball 2.
Mets won only 27 games on the road last year, 27 and 53. And this year they've already run 125, and we have 3 months left in the season.
And Mookie Wilson on deck, as you saw. There's a strike call. It's 2-1. Mets on the road this year, the #1 club with a record of 25 and 15. And the fastball fouled away. 2 balls, 2 strikes. In the month of July, the Mets have won 11 and lost 2. Night games, they're #1 in the National League with a record of 37 and 17. In one-run ball games, they are 19 and 9, and they also lead the National League in that department. 2-2 the count. Now 3-2. Mike Scott with a record of 4 and 6, a lifetime record of 28 and 39, a lifetime against the Mets 1 and 3. And the fastball grounded foul. That looked like it was ball 4.
Well, it could have, but close enough to swing at. A very close pitch. The one thing you have to do with Mike Scott is make him get the ball down. That ball up has a lot of action on it.
Backman has had 32 walks to go with his 71 base hits. And a line drive base hit to left center field. Picked up there by Kelvin Bass, and the Mets have a leadoff base hit from Wally Backman. That is the 17th time this year he has led off the ball game with a base hit.
And we said make him get the ball down, and Wally made him get the ball down. A strike, and he rips it to center field. That is Wally Backman's wheelhouse, that low fastball. The high fastball, he can't pull that ball. He hits a lot of them to left field. But the problem with that, when you zero it down to having to throw a hitter that pitch, it's a very tough pitch to get a called strike on. Mookie Wilson's the same way. Tough to throw him a called strike on the outside part of the plate, let her high.
Runner going, and the pitch is fouled away. Mark Bailey, the catcher, was out in a hurry to make the throw on that pitch, but the ball fouled off, and Backman back to first. Well, the Mets starting in action right away against Houston. Mets have averaged 3.8 runs per game this year. Houston has averaged 4.1. One strike to count. And the curveball hit in the air to right field. The bat splinters and goes over the dugout. The catch is made by Terry Poole, and again, Mookie Wilson with just the handle left. He does that quite often.
Trying to say he doesn't handle pitches like that well, right?
He does not handle these pitches well.
This ball off the end of the bat, as you can see, and dangerously flying into the lower box seats. Mookie checking what was his favorite bat.
That'll bring up Keith Hernandez. Keith hitting at .318. Incidentally, Mookie hitting .286 before the out. Hernandez with 8 home runs, 50 runs batted in. An outstanding story for Keith this year. In his last 6 ball games, he's had at least 1 base hit, batting .409, and he takes a fastball high.
Second in the league in on-base percentage. That's where he wound up last year. He has a .406 on-base percentage this year, .399 last year, second to Mike Schmidt of the Phillies.
He has had 12 RBIs in his last 10 ball games. Backman checked back at first base. Wally has 16 stolen bases in 20 attempts. Mets on the whole have a 78 successful percentage rate in stolen bases. There goes Backman, a throw by Bailey. It is not in time. So Backman steals second base in spite of a quick release by the catcher, Mark Bailey.
It really was a quick release, and watch where Craig Reynolds catches the ball in front of the bag. Had he stayed on the bag, then the out might have been called. Now watch where he catches this ball. This throw is on line, and that's why a shortstop and a second baseman try to straddle the bag, especially on a throw that's on line. You can understand him coming off with a throw off line, of course. Been a closer play had he been on the bag.
2 balls, no strikes. A runner now in scoring position, and now ball 3.
Well, Bailey got rid of that ball in a hurry, didn't he?
He surely did, and he is a tall catcher.
He
And a
tall,
young
and
one.
that's not all.
That's right. On deck batter Darryl Strawberry. 3-0 the count to Hernandez. And a line drive to right center, extra bases. Hernandez continues on. Backman scores easily, and the Mets lead 1-0 as Hernandez goes in with a stand-up double.
Well, Mike Scott did not even come close to throwing Hernandez a strike until the 3-0 pitch. An experienced hitter gets a ball right in his wheelhouse and rips this double to right center. Keith Hernandez has been red hot with a bat, and that's one reason Davey Johnson turned him loose. And the Mets are on top early here at the Dome.
That is his 22nd run batted in his last 24 ball games. And over that 24-game period, he's had 32 base hits. And it brings up Darryl Strawberry. And the fastball high. Scott pitching behind the batters and trailing behind 1-0. 266 average for Strawberry with 12 home runs and 44 RBIs. Darryl has not hit well against Houston. His average at 226 this year. Off-speed pitch, and the count 1 ball, 1 strike.
It's a straight change, and Mike Scott threw to Darryl on the 1-0 count. Big difference between the minors and the majors. They get the off-speed pitches over for the most part behind in the count in the major leagues.
Tough to sit on a fastball in the major leagues. And Strawberry gets a fastball. He grounds it to the second baseman, Dorn, and a throw to first base for the out. Hernandez crosses over to third. Now with 2 men out, the batter will be George Foster. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the New York Mets and WRTV, and is intended solely for the private non-commercial use of our audiences. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the New York Mets and WRTV is prohibited. And now a conference at the mound as Mark Bailey talks it over with Mike Scott. Mets leading 1-0. We're just underway here in the Astrodome. Foster hitting .240 with 13 home runs, 44 RBIs. In his last 15 ball games, he's had 3 home runs and 12 runs batted in, hitting .328. And he takes a fastball right in his wheelhouse.
A lot of times you can do that, go up there and decide not to swing at the first pitch. But with a runner in scoring position,
Why?
my philosophy is to, or it used to be, to go up there and hack at what you see.
Right back in the wheelhouse, and it's a base hit up the middle. So Foster continues to drive in runs. The Mets lead 2-0. And Foster getting 2 consecutive pitches right in his alley.
This ball in on him a little bit. George hits it above, a little bit above the trademark. Not well, but well enough to drive it through the middle. His 45th RBI of the season. Now it's 2-0 Mets.
So now Foster at first base with 2 men out, and the batter is Ubi Brooks. Ubi has hit in 10 of his last 11 games. His average at .307. And he takes a strike.
But Foster has really been swinging the bat confidently over the last 2 weeks.
Ever since the All-Star break. And he stayed home and worked out at Shea Stadium during those off days. 1 strike pitch, a good curve, and it's called a strike. Strike 2 for Mike Scott as he throws his first curveball of the ball game. Ubi Brooks with 10 home runs and 34 RBI. Back with a curve, it's chopped out to third. Phil Garner has it. The long throw to first base in time for the out. That retires the side, but the Mets get 2 runs on 3 hits. They leave 1. And the score at the end of 1/2 inning. The Mets 2, the Astros coming up. Now here's a word from Ivory. Foster, Wilson, Strawberry in the outfield. Fitzgerald the catcher. And Sid Fernandez in his first start as a New York Met. Fernandez at Tidewater had a record of 6-5, an earned run average of 2.47. He walked 58 and struck out 121 in his stint in AAA ball.
And a right-handed hitting lineup with the exception of Terry Poole. As you can see, switch hitter Bill Doran batting right will lead it off. Craig Reynolds, of course, he's a left-hander too. He'll bat second and play shortstop. Phil Garner, the third baseman, batting third. Jose Cruz, another left-hander. Got myself, didn't I? Enos Cabell will play first base and bat fifth. Kevin Bass will play center and bat sixth. I knew I had an idea about Terry Poole, the left-handed hitting right fielder. Mark Bailey, the switch hitter, batting eighth, and Mike Scott, the pitcher, batting ninth. You like that, didn't you?
I know Bill
You
Webb.
saw me die over here.
I was wondering how you're going to get out of it. You got yourself in, get yourself out.
I noticed you went up and went for a cup of coffee when you didn't want no part of it, right?
You're on your own, baby. Bill Doran to lead off. The Mets leading 2-0. Doran, the second baseman, batting .306 against the Mets. And Fernandez with his first pitch, a fastball. Mets have staked Fernandez to a 2-run lead in this first start for the Mets.
As my former colleague Richie Ashburn would say, well, why are there three left-handers in the lineup tonight? How can you hit three left-handers against Sid Fernandez, right?
And back with a fastball, the count 1-1 strike. Fernandez at Tidewater was in 16 games. He had an earned run average of 2.47. In 102 innings, he struck out 121 batters. That's a good stat. Misses high in the count 2-1.
Led the Texas League last year with 209 strikeouts, the most valuable player in the Texas League, pitching for San Antonio.
San Antonio Dodger Farm Club. He was 13-4 there. And again, a fastball, 3-1. Doran in his last 22 games has batted .402 with 35 base hits. One of the few batters that chokes the bat. Fastball bounced to the second base side. Wally Backman has it. So Fernandez retires his first batter for the Mets.
I don't know, Ralph. You know, you're facing a guy like Sid Fernandez for the first time. You want to see him throw. I think on a 3-1 count, 2-0 early in the count, like that, and early in the ball game, you're trailing by 2 runs. I think I'd have been taking there. That ball was a strike, but I think I'm taking it. By the way, it's the first time that the Houston Astros have faced Sid Fernandez. A lot of things are in your favor when you see him work a lot.
Well, you want to see all of his pitches if you can, and you might be able to get a look at them all if you make him pitch a while. This is Craig Reynolds, the shortstop. Reynolds batting .267 and the fastball for strike one.
So Mike Fitzgerald, true to his word, is calling for a lot of fastballs from Sid Fernandez.
They say his fastball has good movement, but not necessarily too fast. They have clocked him around 85 miles an hour. Another fastball. His stats in the minor leagues have been unbelievable. Everywhere he has pitched, from the low minors to the high minors, he has done exceptionally well. This year he struck out 17 batters against Maine in AAA baseball back on May the 7th. That is the high in that league for this year. It's also a Tidewater high ever. High tide ever, huh? And a fly ball hit down the left field side. Foster gives chase, but no chance. So Reynolds back to home plate. Count at strike two. Reynolds had the tough position of having to replace Dickie Thon, who was hit in the head by a pitch by Mike Torres when the Mets played here early in April. Thon has been unable to get his vision back and unable to make the active list. He's still on the disabled list. I
ran into Dickie Thon on the elevator earlier in the day. He was leaving the ballpark. He has 20/50 vision in that left eye. I'm not an ophthalmologist, but I know that that is not good enough to play this game.
And the first curveball by Fernandez, it broke well. Reynolds lucky to foul it.
That was a horrifying thing to see. A ball that had gotten away from Mike Torres the first time the Mets were here in the Astrodome.
Dickie Thon, an outstanding shortstop, outstanding hitting shortstop. And Reynolds has done a very good job replacing him.
Reynolds didn't exactly chop liver. As you've said before, he's one of the few guys that has made the All-Star team in both leagues with the Seattle Mariners, and he made the All-Star team in the National League with the Houston Astros.
1-2 the count to Craig Reynolds. And the curveball, it misses again, and it's 2 balls and 2 strikes. Hernandez showing a good breaking ball, even though he has missed the strike zone.
Interesting to note that Dwight Gooden broke in this ballpark too. Sid Fernandez, of course, his first start with the Mets in this park, and a good park to break in, Ralph, because of the dimensions. Tough to hit a ball out of this park.
And a foul ball that'll be out of play. That'll stay at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Now this is definitely a anti-home run ballpark. To give you an example, the catcher Mark Bailey for Houston has had 3 home runs in this ballpark, and that's as many as the entire rest of the team has all year. They've only had 6 home runs in this ballpark. And again, a foul ball. This one over that is just out of reach as Foster again trails it into the stands.
So what you do as outfielders now, you have seen Reynolds hit the ball the other way as we look at Sid Fernandez's delivery. A rather unorthodox style of throwing, that long stride. He drags his arm through after setting that right foot. But I was going to say, if you're an outfielder now, you play the count, you need cooperation from the pitcher and the catcher. They stick with the hard stuff, especially in a 2-2 count, and the outfield moves toward the left field line.
They play Reynolds as though he were a right-hand batter, and he hits it out to left field, and Foster is stationed perfectly. So 2 men away. Fernandez getting his first 2 batters. Now he'll try the veteran Phil Garner. Garner having a very off year, hitting at .247, 1 home run, 18 runs batted in. He has been up only 16 times against the Mets this year. And in the 16 at-bats, he has picked up 4 base hits. And a fastball for a strike.
Interestingly, Ralph, we talked about Reynolds being on the All-Star team in 2 different leagues. Phil Garner, the other Houston Astro, also with the Oakland A's and with the Pittsburgh Pirates on the All-Star team.
Another fastball. It's out of the strike zone. 1 ball, 1 strike. Garner, a man known for being a very aggressive ball player, came to Houston from Pittsburgh for Johnny Ray. And a good fastball. It's 1-2. Phillies couldn't sign Garner to an extension of his contract, so they traded him for Johnny Ray, got a good second baseman, and then Houston could sign him and did. Curveball, strike 3. So Phil Garner fooled by the curveball, and Fernandez works a perfect inning, striking out 1. And the score at the end of 1, the Mets 2, the Astros nothing. Ball games, he's batted .375. And Mike Scott misses with a slider. Mets getting 2 runs on 3 hits in the first inning. And the fastball hit on the line to the third baseman Phil Garner. Broken bat line drive. And Garner pulls it out, 1 away.
That ball got to Garner in a hurry. And as you said, it was a broken bat line drive, but hardly hit also.
That'll bring up Ron Gardenhire. And the breaking ball way outside for ball 1. Gardenhire hitting .244 for the year, 1 home run, 8 runs batted in. He's been hot of late. In his last 26 games, he's hit .338. Foul back out of play. Mike Scott with an earned run average of 4.65. Houston leads the league in team earned run average at 3.10. So Scott has not contributed to any great degree to that low earned run average. Fastball again fouled off, and the count 1-2. Mike Scott was traded to Houston for Danny Heap. Danny Heap, of course, having a pretty good year with the New York Mets. And the curveball chopped to Phil Garner at third. Go to first base for the out. This Thursday evening, take a musical tour of 3 decades of rock and roll. Join host Dick Clark along with Laura Branigan and Chuck Berry as they highlight great moments in rock and roll history from the 50s up to today's music. Dick Clark's Rock and Roll On this Thursday at 8:30 p.m. And as an addendum to that, Mr. Tim McCarver was very familiar with a man who introduced the great rock and roll singer Elvis Presley.
Yep, that's right.
Memphis, Tennessee. Huh?
Yep. We were homies, as we say down in Memphis.
Disc jockey down there. Sid Fernandez in his first at bat this year. They used the DH in the International League. And they counted 1 ball and 1 strike.
I met Elvis Presley on one occasion back in 1969. Talk about a good-looking man, Ralph. Hey, he was a good-looking man.
I was watching one of his early movies on TV down here. It was so early it was in black and white. I'll tell you, he was really a handsome fellow. And that's high. 2 balls, 2 strikes. I was watching it. Love me tender.
Back in the middle 50s, Colonel Parker, he handles you, doesn't he?
Yeah, I used him for chicken. There's a ground ball to the first base side. And the side retired in order. And the score at the end of 1.5 innings, the Mets 2 and the Astros nothing. Now here's a word from the Good Olds guy.
You know, one of the best things about being an ex-big leaguer is getting freebies to the game. Call the front office, bingo. And once these fans recognize me, I probably won't even have to pay for my light beer from Miller. Down it, I love them. These fans know I drink light because it's less filling and it tastes great. Good seats, huh?
You're in the wrong seat, buddy. Come on.
Oh, I must be in the front
Come on,
row.
come on.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Good seats, hey, buddy? He missed the tag! He missed the tag!
The bottom of the second, and today, the anniversary of the launching of the astronauts for landing on the moon. And the Mets were in Montreal when they landed on the moon. We were held over at the airport and got a chance to watch that whole operation. Unfortunately, we got to watch it from the airport. Got into New York about 4 o'clock in the morning, but what a thrill that was.
Apollo 11 in 1969.
And, of course, 1969, the year the Mets won the National League Championship and the World Series. Do you think there's a correlation there?
Could be. Certainly a step for mankind on the moon and a step for the New York Mets organization. And they're hoping to take another step this year as Jose Cruz leads off.
And to give
the familiar Cruz in the background.
Give Tim McCarver his proper identification as he comes in for the play-by-play. The man who said Elvis Presley would never make it with that style of singing.
Great judge of talent, right? If I'd have seen Babe Ruth swinging, I'd have probably said he should have been a pitcher.
Should have been a pitcher.
Pretty good pitcher, too.
Great pitcher.
Jose Cruz batting .298 on the year. There's a strike, 0-1. Sid Fernandez, his first start as a Met. Cruz, a perennial 300 hitter. Swinging him, and a foul tip. 0-2.
Well, you just can't be any hotter than Jose Cruz. He was the player of the month of June. And here in July, he's still tearing it up. In his last 21 games, he's batted .482.
Curveball inside, 1-2. Some kind of numbers, and Sid Fernandez's number is interesting also, speaking of numbers.
That's the first time the Mets have used number 50.
Fastball outside, 2-2. Sid Fernandez wears the number 50 because Hawaii, the state from which he reigns, is the 50th state, and his favorite TV show is Hawaii 5-0. as Cruz lines out to George Foster. The second putout for Foster. 4 in a row retired by Sid Fernandez. And 1 away here in the second.
Manufacturer's Handover, the financial source worldwide. You know, there's only been one ball player that ever wore the name of the city that he lived in on his uniform.
Yeah, I've heard this. What was it?
96.
96. North Carolina. What?
Bill Boycell came from 96, North Carolina, and he wore the number 96.
Obviously a sparsely populated town, right? Wasn't that the population?
That might have been.
Fastball is high and tight. 1-0 to Enos Cabell, batting .315. He broke an 0 for 18 slump in last night's game against the Phillies, a game in which the Astros won 3-2. Curveball is low, 2-0. Game took 16 innings, and the Astros stranded 20 runners over 16 innings. The Phillies stranded only 3.
And twice Paul Owens used a 5-man infield, which has been done many times before. But still an interesting decision to pull an outfielder in and put him in the infield.
Cabell fouls it back, 2-1.
The strange part is both times it worked.
Gene Mock, a proponent of the 5-man infield in late innings. You have a sinker ball pitcher in there. Chuck Tanner's done that once this year with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
And Gil Hodges used a 4-man outfield several times when he managed the Mets.
Swing and a miss at a bad ball. And to give you an idea of how much of a free swinger Enos Cabell is, he has walked only 12 times in 235 at-bats. Job out to second base, and Wally Backman makes the catch. 2 away.
You know, there's a great story Jack Lang, who writes for the Daily News, was talking about, and it's a true story. Cal Abrams, who was a outfielder for the Dodgers and a Jewish outfielder, would be brought in from the outfield for the defense against the bunt, and they would station him right out in front of the hitter. And it was a dangerous position. It was a Prince Rickey play. And he always said, don't they ever put any Christians in that infield like that?
Fastball is high to Kevin Bass, batting .232. Came over to Houston as Frank DiPino, the left-hander, and Mike Madden, the left-hander, came over for Don Sutton, September of '82. Actually, August 31st. 1-1 to Kevin Bass, a switch hitter. Drive, base hit, left field. The first hit for the Astros. Foster went down to one knee. He fielded it nicely and holds Bass to a single.
And here is Bass coming up with the first hit. It's off a fastball. And Bass coming up with a hard hit line drive to left field. He was married last year in San Francisco after a day game. He got married on June 15th. That's the trading deadline. You think that had anything to do with it?
Celebrate your anniversary on the trading deadline? Terry Poole, the batter. Terry batting .309. Fine ball player. 3 home runs, 29 RBIs, batting .292 against the Mets from Melville, Saskatchewan. Did not play high school ball up in Canada. Line drive, center field. Mookie Wilson in and then back and over and makes the catch. Poole hit it well, but at Wilson. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, and 1 left in the second. And after 2, the Mets have the lead here in the Dome, 2-0. Top of the order for the New York Mets. Here in the top of the 3rd inning, Wally Backman led off the action in the first, an inning in which the Mets scored twice. Base hit up the middle on a 3-2 pitch. He scored a run, batting .290 against the Astros this year. Fastball is low. Other National League scores: Pittsburgh, seeking their 6th in a row, are leading the Dodgers in the top of the 6th, 4-1. Phillies over Cincinnati 5-1, bottom of the 6th. Foul back, 1-1. Ralph, as you alluded to those Cubs today, they lost behind Dick Ruthven 4-0. San Diego, Mark Thurman won that game, I believe.
Correct.
So the Mets technically lead the Cubs by a game right now. If they can win this game, it'll be back to a game and a half. Jams him with a fastball, and Reynolds can't make the play. Just out of the reach of Garner. It's got to be scored a base hit, the second of the night for Wally Backman.
Well, here's a pitch that's really hard to handle. Got him in tight, and the conventional inside-out swing. Reynolds over to backhand it, but against Backman's speed, even if he had held onto the ball, he could not have thrown him out.
Mookie Wilson, the batter, he flied to right on a broken bat hit. There you go with that handle again. You said hard to handle. The Mets have hit 2 balls off the handle, 1 for a hit and 1 for a fly ball out. These Astros have not been tough for the Mets to handle this year. The Mets are 6-3. Close play at first base. Mets are 3-0 here in the Dome.
And that is really unusual. The Mets have had all kinds of problems here in the Dome.
They are 104-51 lifetime, the Astros over the Mets here. So they've won 2 out of every 3 games they played against the Mets since 1962.
When they first opened the Astrodome, the ceiling was left with clear glass, and fly balls were impossible to find. They finally had to paint the ceiling and make it opaque so that you could pick the ball up. When Casey Stengel brought the Mets here for the first time, they asked him how the Mets would do with those fly balls. And he says, I don't know. We're still working on grounders.
This was the first ballpark, speaking of grounders, first ballpark that used AstroTurf.
Now they found they couldn't grow the grass if they couldn't get the sunlight in here, and so they had to come up with this surface. And I'm sure a lot of people who are of the old school resent the fact that the game is not played on grass.
And Ralph Kiner and I always doing our homework early out here about noon today, trying to count the panes of glass in the Astrodome.
I got lost after 3,041.
There's a strike, 1-1. I think there are about 3,600 panes of glass here.
That's a lot of pane of glass.
And don't say that too quickly either. 1-1 to Wilson. Another throw, and they get him. Wally Backman picked off of first base. An outstanding pickoff move by Mike Scott. 1 away.
Well, the Mets should know that Scott has a great move. He was with the Mets, had that good move as a New York Met. And right here, Backman can't get the hand in ahead of the tag by Cabell. Cabell looking for the call, and he got it.
1-1 pitch to Wilson. Is inside, 2-1. Ball hit well to center field. Kevin Bass back, and he makes the catch. Mookie Wilson hit one to deep center field, 400 feet straight away, and Bass makes a nice play.
And Bass here got a little twisted as he went back for the ball, but got straightened out at the end there and comes up with a good catch. Here he's looking at the ball over his right shoulder. The ball had tailed over there to his right side, and now he backs into it.
Well, tomorrow on the 4 o'clock movie, a controversial presidential appointment leads to an excellent drama on both the dirt and dignity of political life. Henry Fonda heads an all-star cast in Advise and Consent. Don't miss the conclusion to this classic tomorrow at 4 o'clock right here on Channel 9. And Keith Hernandez, the batter. And he fouls it back off the foot of home plate umpire Randy Marsh, or is that his arm? Oh, boy.
I think it got him in the arm.
Oh, baby.
I don't even believe he fouled the ball. It's off the tip of the glove. Let's take a look again. No bat in the ball. It just came off the tip of the glove and got him right on the, it looked like the right elbow.
speed and hitting Randy Marsh. I mean, it got him solidly in that right elbow.
Well, you hope it didn't get him on the bone part, right on the point. Right here you see it come in, just ticked off the glove, and then it goes right against that area by the right elbow. Hey, that is a tough job.
Umpires behind the plate once every 4th day because of the rotation, naturally. Rotated clockwise from home to third to second to first.
Well, it looks like there's a knot on there right now when you look at it.
Ooh, there is. Of course, that's his elbow right there.
It does look like it's already swollen.
Right above, right to the right of the point. It certainly does.
He's going to have a tough time calling strikes if he stays in the ball.
But that would be a good sign, because I would think that that's more muscle there, Ralph. Away from the tip of that joint there.
Here comes your favorite.
Ethyl chloride.
Looks like it got him off of the elbow point, above it, so that could be
More in the muscle,
good.
Huh? Toward the bicep. Randy Marsh, the home plate umpire, gets a nice hand here at the Astrodome. Bob Engel, the crew chief here. I would think he would be the crew chief, not Paul Runge. Engel has had more time than Paul.
Most of the time that indicates who is the crew chief. Occasionally they'll bypass an umpire.
Crew chief is the guy who makes the decisions about rainouts, when to bring the tarp out.
Oh, he's having trouble putting his cap on.
Yeah, a player at least can go in the dugout and put some ice on it, some superficial medication, but an umpire's got to stand out there for both sides. So Randy's all right. Going to have a sore right arm tomorrow. Doesn't appear to have anything broken, because wouldn't imagine he could withstand the pain. So the count 1-0 to Hernandez, 2-0, top of the third, 2 out, nobody on here at the Astrodome in Houston. Fastball is high. You think that might mar the decisions that Randy Marsh might have behind home plate?
No, I think he'd put up a strike sign with his left arm if he had to. I've seen that happen.
Or just call him loudly enough. He hadn't been tested yet. 2 balls in a row since the ball got away from Bailey. 3-0 to Hernandez, the same count in which he hit the double the last time up. This one's high, and Hernandez walks on 4 straight balls. Well, I was really referring to, since he got hit by that deflected ball, would he have a tendency to pull off back there? Maybe on a ball that's close or a ball inside?
If he's normal, he'll flinch a little bit, I believe. 51st walk for Keith Hernandez this year.
Keith 1 for 1 with an RBI, and on base now with 2 out. Here's Strawberry. Farrell fouls this one back. He grounded to second his first time up.
There's one indication right there. He did not throw that ball back to the pitcher, which umpires normally do. He gave it to the catcher.
He took a shot. Hernandez, a mild threat to run at first base. He has stolen twice. He's been caught twice. His best year for stolen bases, 19 and 79. 1-1. grounded off the end of the bat to Craig Reynolds. He looked at second. Doran was not covering as he was playing Strawberry to pull. So Reynolds went to first and gets Darrell. No runs, 1 hit. No errors and 1 left after 2.5 here at the Dome. It's 2-0 New York.
It's one of my bigger days. Let me buy a beer. Sure. These fans, I love them. When I came in, they didn't recognize me at first, but then when I told them who I was, next thing you know, they're buying me my favorite beer, light beer from Miller. They know us ex-big leaguers drink light because it's got 1/3 less calories than their regular beer. It's less filling, and it tastes great. Thanks.
Hey, it's a pleasure to buy a beer for a great pitcher like Whitey Ford.
So I lied.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Hey, Whitey, I thought you were a lefty. Oh, that's right.
Bottom of the 3rd inning. Sid Fernandez in his first start as a Met, his second start in his major league career. He is 0-1 lifetime as he lost his first major league game last year. Mark Bailey will be the batter. He's batting .209, but he's hitting .294 against Mets pitching with 5 RBIs. Mark with good power. He has 5 home runs. Fastball, strike, 0-1. Curveball outside. We haven't seen that highly touted Sid Fernandez changeup yet. Fastball is up and away. 2-1 to Mark Bailey. You can see how Fernandez would have problems with control high, can't you?
He has a very peculiar stride. He has a very long stride.
Fastball misses in. 3-1.
He's from Hawaii, as Tim pointed out, for the number 50, the 50th state. The Mets traded Carlos Diaz, who also is from Hawaii, to the Dodgers along with Bob Baylor to get Fernandez.
Ball hit well down the left field line. Fair or foul, this ball is a home run for Mark Bailey. A 3-1 fastball, and the 6'5", 215-pounder put everything behind it. His 4th home run at the Dome this year. Boy, he hit that ball.
Well, the only question on the drive was whether or not it'd be fair or foul. That is his 6th home run of the season, and 4 of them have been here. We'll look at it again. Fastball, that is over the inside part of the plate, and it's certainly well hit. Bailey now, with his 4 home runs in the Astrodome, has more home runs than the entire team other than he. The entire team here in the Astrodome has had only 3 home runs compared to his 4.
Well, the batter will be pitcher Mike Scott. Pretty good hitting pitcher, batting 172 with a double and 3 RBIs. 2-1 ball game now. Here's a strike, 0-1. That's what happens when you fall behind. Big leagues or minor leagues, you get that 1 pitch to hit, and it's a free swing, and Bailey connected. 0-2 to Scott. Swing and a miss, he got him. 2nd strikeout for Sid Fernandez, and 1 away. Top of the order, as Bill Doran, who grounded out to 2nd, will be the batter. All this week, anchor person Sarah Lee Kessler brings you live coverage from the Democratic National Convention in San Francisco. Tune in to News 9 at noon and News 9 primetime at 8 p.m. for the inside story on the convention action. Bill Doran batting .266 on the year. The Mets with 4 hits, the Astros with 2. 2-1 ball game. Fastball misses, 0-1. Doran fouls it back, 1-1. Well, this bud Mets, for everyone watching at home, why not grab a cold one before the next inning? Because nothing goes better with baseball than Budweiser. Sounds like a good idea, doesn't it, Ralph? Good breaking ball, but a tie, 2-1.
Well, Mike Schmidt has hit his 18th home run for the Phillies. They now lead 7-2 over Cincinnati. Mike had a home run last night.
It's fifth Astrodome home run as this ball is lifted to center. Mookie Wilson back, and they're 2 away. So a good sign for Sid. After the home run, he comes back and gets Mike Scott on strikes and Bill Doran on the fly ball. Craig Reynolds will be the batter. Craig Reynolds 0 for 1. Fly to left field, first time up, batting .266. Make that .245 as he takes a fastball inside. 1 away, or 1-0. Fastball misses, 2-0.
Reynolds, a hometown boy, born and raised in Houston, was an outstanding athlete here. Signed originally with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Fly ball lifted to right center field. Darryl Strawberry there, and he makes the catch. So after the home run by Bailey, Hernandez comes back and he gets 3 Astros in order. But the Astros are on the board with the home run by Bailey. They left none, and the Mets now lead 2-1 after 3. How about a word for Budweiser right now? Foster bats and Steve Zabriskie does the play-by-play. Steve?
Thank you, Tim. And the first pitch, an infield base hit. I would have to think as Foster beat it out, and they are giving him a single on the play. George had a single to center his first time up.
Well, Craig Reynolds had to go to his right, but in fairness to Mike Scott, George Foster does not run that well, and had a good throw been made, they would have had him. But I'm glad to see George get a base hit on it.
George is 2 for 2. And here's Eubie Brooks. Eubie grounded to third his first time up. 2-1. The Mets leading as we're in the top of the 4th inning. And a breaking ball nubbed down the third base line. Garner lets it roll foul, strike 1. Foster, incidentally, in his last 13 at-bats, has 7 hits and 8 RBIs.
And we had a chance to talk to George Foster before the game about the confidence that he's had in swinging the bat.
Well, the biggest difference, I would say that I'm more relaxed and I have better concentration the last couple of weeks than I had in the past. And I just have to go out there and strive for that consistency. And I know that with my bat getting hot the second half is going to enhance the team's chances in winning our division. And I feel good about my personal contribution the last couple of weeks is now to keep it going.
Well, he's been keeping it going, 2 for 2 here tonight and .455 in his last 5 games previous to tonight. That pitch too high, and it's 1-1 to Hubie. Hubie's only hitting 50 of 60 ball games, 343 for those 60 games. Fastball jammed right up the middle, and a flip back in time. The throw to first in time. What a 4-6-3 double play turned by Houston. They're 99th of the year. They're second in the National League in the double play behind St. Louis.
Well, a very aggressive double play, as you said. Now watch this little flip behind. Well, that's a tough play. Barehanded by Reynolds and scooped nicely by Cabell. You will never see a double play turn any better than that one. Oh, good play all the way around.
Some leather and a little bit of skin thrown in.
Sir.
Bill Doran, who started it at second base. So 2 out for Mike Fitzgerald, who lined one right at Phil Garner, the third baseman, back in the second inning. It's 9-1.
5 hitters. The Mets have had 3 base runners, and now nobody's on base.
That's right.
With no runs, right?
Defense. Here's Garner at third again. Gets him out, and after a leadoff single, an easy inning for Mike Scott. 1 hit, but nobody left. It's still 2-1 New York in the middle of the 4th. We'll be back to the Dome after this word from the good old skies. It'll be Phil Garner, Jose Cruz, and Enos Cabell for the Houston Astros against Sid Fernandez of the Mets, as we go to the bottom of the 4th inning with the Mets holding a 2-1 lead. Garner struck out his first time up, one of 2 that Fernandez has recorded. Fernandez, incidentally, actually made his major league debut against these Houston Astros last year in relief. He pitched 3 innings and struck out 5 in that relief appearance. That was, of course, for the Dodgers. Ball 1 is outside. On which he struck Garner out.
Ralph mentioned earlier that Carlos Diaz was involved in the trade, which of course he was. Carlos was recently sent out to Albuquerque.
The Dodgers have really shaken that team up on more than one occasion this year.
You look at their lineup, you don't know anybody in their lineup except Guerrero, Socia.
I guess Guerrero's not playing third anymore on top of that.
He's in the outfield.
Fastball fouled away, and it's still 1-2.
They have that Herman Rivera playing third base. And that group is trailing the Pittsburgh Pirates in the bottom of the 7th, 4-1.
Pirates have been red hot since the All-Star break.
Yes, sir. Trying for their 6th in a row. Tony Pena, 23-game hitting streak.
And again, the curveball gets Garner. 3rd strikeout for Sid Fernandez.
That's a big league yacker right there.
Well, you're no kidding. Well, tonight at 11, Sergeant Bilko launches an offensive on Wall Street to help a former Army buddy. And then at 11:30, Gracie takes Spanish lessons to help improve her IQ. I wish we could see this one. Anyway, the laughter begins at 11 with the Phil Silver Show, followed by the Burns and Allen Show right here on Channel 9. Jose Cruz flied to left his first time up, came into the game hitting .353 against New York this year. And a 58-foot curveball from Fernandez, and it's 2-0.
How can Spanish lessons improve your IQ?
Especially hers. There got to be no help.
Funny woman.
She was not.
Married to a funny man.
Yes. She was not deficient in the smarts department, that's for sure. High fastball foul back out of play, 2-1. Jose, as you said earlier, has just been red hot for, it seems, forever this year. He's hitting 31 of his last 37 games. Over the last 3 ball games, he's hitting .571. They've hardly been able to get him out. In the last 18 games, he's hitting .500 with 12 runs batted in. And a ground ball up the middle. Backman can't get it. It's a base hit into center field. A 1-out single by Jose Cruz.
Fastball on a 2-1 count. And even had Backman come up with this ball, no chance to get Cruz, who runs very, very well.
3rd hit for Houston off Fernandez, and Cruz a threat to run at first base with Enos Cabell the batter.
Cabell, a good guy to hit and run. He's a contact hitter, hits the ball to right field a lot of times. Strawberry's too deep in right field, by the way. Doesn't have real good power to right field, especially in hit and run situations, because a guy wants to make contact. He's not really concerned with driving the ball a long way.
And a right-handed hitter would have a tendency to go more to right field, and then in another situation.
Especially a guy, the type of hitter that Cabell is.
Ball 1 to him as he checks things out with third base coach Dennis Menke. Here in the bottom of the 4th. Fastball is low. 2 balls, no strikes. You mentioned that 0 for 18 streak that Cabell broke with a base hit last night. Even including that, he's hitting .328 over the last 57 games. But he's really been hot. If you take out that 0 for 18, it's burning up. Fernandez will chase Cruz back.
Gene Garber has now relieved Rick Camp up in Montreal. The Expos leading 3-1 after 7.5 over the Atlanta Braves.
Fastball strike makes it 2-1.
Philadelphia now 7-2. Top of the 9th inning at Riverfront in Cincinnati. And that's where the Mets will travel after this series against the Astros.
Runner going, and a pitch looped into right field. Strawberry will get there and will have a double play if the throw's in time. It is. A 9-3 double play as Cruz was running, and the hit and run turns into 2 quick outs here in the 4th inning. A hit, but nobody left. And at the end of 4, it's still 2-1 New York. Now here's a word from Garcia Vega. Leading off, top of the 5th inning here in the Dome. A 2-1 New York Mets lead as he faces former Met Mike Scott. Gardy grounded to third his first time up. Ball 1 outside. Gardenhire coming into the game hitting only .190 against the Astros, but .338 in his last 26 ball games. And that's up and away, 2-0.
You never know what may trigger a phone call. We just got a phone call from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Met fan. Not only a Met fan, but a guy who's doing a book on Elvis Presley.
And a high pitch ripped down the left field line. Cruz won't get there, and it'll be off the wall. Gardenhire chugging into second with a stand-up double to lead off the 5th inning for the Mets.
Tell you, Ronnie just flat out buggy whips this high fastball. Now this is what buggy whipping is. Boom. Hits the base of the wall. Ron Gardenhire just smokes that ball. Kind of hugs the wall, and Cruz takes it, but Gardenhire easily in the second with a double, his 6th of the year.
Hit that ball hard. Sid Fernandez grounded out to the first baseman Enos Cabell unassisted.
Call it buggy whipping, Steve, because that's what you really have to do. You have to use that bat as a switch on that high fastball.
Get it around. And Fernandez bunting it, and it's a beauty, but it's rolling foul. Garner had broken back to the bag, anticipating a play at third. Had that stayed fair, it'd been trouble.
Ron Gardenhire hitting well of late. I asked Gardy about the consistency of playing every day.
I think so. You know, I feel happy, you know, that I'm playing every day. I'm getting a chance to work on things now, you know, during BP that I know I'm going to be playing when I come to the ballpark. I know I'm going to be in the lineup, so it makes me feel good. And, you know, I'm relaxed. I feel I'm playing good baseball right now, and we're winning. And what more can I say? You know, we're happy.
And Gardenhire has contributed a great deal. He's also played excellently in the field. Fernandez bunting again. Scott charging. He looks at third. He'll have to throw to first, and the sacrifice is successful.
Not a bad job for a fellow with his first bunted tip to the 1984 season. Sid Fernandez, of course, they use the DH in AAA ball. Scott looks at third, but he has plenty of time to get Sid Fernandez, but Sid does the job. Good job.
And Wally Backman will take his time to allow Fernandez to spend a moment in the dugout. Wally is 2 for 2. He's singled to left center, stolen a base, and scored. And he had an infield single in the third, and Houston's going to play their infield in all the way around. It's a ball low and inside. Want a new car that doesn't cost a bundle? See the Nissan Sentra, America's most popular import, at your Datsun dealer. Wally's driven in 9 runs in the last 15 games. He looks at the strike on the outside corner, and it's 1-1.
Now, home plate umpire Randy Marsh is calling strikes with his left hand. For you fans who just joined us, Randy Marsh took quite a shot on that right elbow of his back in the 3rd inning. still in the ball game.
Ron Gardenhire at third with one out. And Backman lines it to left field for a base hit. Cruz cuts it off, but Gardenhire will score easily, and it's 3-1 New York. Backman's 10th RBI in his last 16 games.
You see Ron Gardenhire touch home plate and put his head down. The reason he did that, he made a base running mistake, but got away with it. And the reason he made a base running mistake, when this ball is hit in the air, the runner goes back to third base. You see Gardenhire frozen on the play at the bottom of your screen. And by going back to third base, you score. And there's Gardy putting his head down. He knows he made a mistake. It's a very tough play, because it's the easiest thing in the world to break too early. And that's what he did, but he got away with it.
Especially on a ball hit on a line like that. You have more of a tendency, of course, than one that would be hit in the air.
Right. The idea is you go back to the bag. If you're on third base, less than 2 out, go back to the bag anyway, because you're going to score from third base on a ball, whether it falls fair or if the outfielder catches it.
Scott chases Backman back. He picked Wally off in the third inning after Backman had singled. Mookie Wilson batting, has flied out twice, once very deep to center field. And Backman running. And a ground ball through the vacated spot at second. The hit and run works perfectly. Wally's coming around third, and he's going to score. Here goes Mookie for third. And he's in there with a triple. They may give an error on the play as the ball was bobbled in the outfield. Nope, it's a triple and an RBI on the hit and run by Mookie Wilson and Wally Backman.
You talk about picking him up and laying him down. Mookie Wilson into the vacated spot with Doran covering. As Mookie is not apt to pull the ball, Backman scores. This bobble allows Wilson to go to third, and you talking about picking up paper. I mean, he was blowing around those bases. Man, is that a beautiful sight to see him run.
He can run, I'm telling you.
An error by Bass, or I should say a muff by Bass. It's still a triple by Mookie and an RBI. Infield in again. Oh, it's great to see that man get around the bases.
That AstroTurf is smoking right now, I want to tell you. Keith Hernandez with an RBI double and a run scored and a walk. And again, the infield in. It's hit right to the second baseman door. Now Mookie is hung up, getting himself in a rundown, but Hernandez cannot advance as he dives back into first. So the Mets made up their mind to send the runner from third.
And I don't think this is a good play. With Strawberry and Foster coming up, I think you got to make the ball go through. Mookie tries. He got a late break from third base, but even with a good break, Doran has him easily. Infield in, that's a tough thing to do, is try to score him. I mean, you got the Thunder coming up. I think Davey got burned on a play there by having Mookie score or try to score.
Strawberry, the batter, now with 2 outs, score at 4-2-5, and a fielder's choice for Keith Hernandez. Darrell has grounded to second and grounded to short. Hernandez at first with 2 out. 1-1.
I think you're going to play it the same way with Ron Gardenhire on third base. You got to make the ball go through. Vern Rule now warming for the Astros. Of course, Gardy scored on the fly ball to the outfield, so you don't know what was going to happen. But on artificial surface, that ball gets the infielders in a hurry.
Too quickly. In the dirt, 2-1. That's the big difference, really. On a grass infield, maybe a ball that's not sharply hit, and with Mookie's speed, you're going to have a tough play for them to make at the plate. But a ball hit that sharply and right at the infielder in, there's just no chance. Breaking ball drill deep to left center field. Cruz going back on the track, and he can't get it. It's off the wall. Hernandez will score. Strawberry motors around. Here's a play at third. He's in there. Strawberry triples to the base of the wall in left center field. Hernandez scores, and it's 5-1 New York.
Darrell Strawberry gets an RBI, and he almost had a run scored. I don't know what happened to Jose Cruz. Looked like he was under it. He did everything right but catch the ball. Now he gets his hat. He stopped for his hat. Bass retrieves him. Now watch Bobby Valentine. Boom, the ball hits Valentine. It went through Garner, and had it not hit. Now watch this play by Jose Cruz. Drops his hat. Now the ball. picks his hat up.
You take it, Kevin.
I'm sure Bob Lillis, the manager of the Astros, is saying, now watch this. That's the weirdest play. Hit Bobby right on the knee, and look at the dugout. John Stearns in the background. Great reaction shot there.
Had that ball gotten through and rolled along, Strawberry might have scored.
Yep.
But he's at third, still 2 out for George Foster, who's 2 for 2. That breaking ball high, ball 1.
A lot of weird things happened on that play.
That was something, wasn't it? Cruz looked to be in a perfect position. The ball was just off the end of his glove. I don't think it even touched his glove. Foster takes again high, 2-0.
Ralph mentioned earlier that these panes of glass at the top of the dome here have been painted. But still, it's easy to lose a ball here.
That's right, because the roof structure is actually painted an off-white color. 3-0 now to Foster.
Not making any excuses for Jose Cruz, but he was running to the spot where he thought the ball was going to land.
That's right.
And took his eye off the ball, and then you look up and you see 4,500 panes of glass coming down. No ball.
George green lighted on 3-0, fouls it off. 3-1. I'll tell you, I played football in here, and it's tough to see a football on a punt or a kickoff, and that's a big dark object as opposed to a small white one.
It's tough to pick up a handoff, right? That's a bad background, man.
That's right.
How bad was it?
Either that or a blind running back. Maybe it was both. The Mets have scored 3 runs here in the top of the 5th to take a 5-1 lead. Foster fouls another one back, and it's now 3-2.
Those are quality hacks that George has taken at 3-0 and 3-1 count. 2 fastballs. I would imagine Scott will throw him a curveball here. Mets are running wild this inning.
Well, the speed has really been evident. Gardenhire led off with a double, was sacrificed to third. Backman drove him in with a single. Wilson tripled. Hernandez reached on a fielder's choice, and Strawberry tripled. But Foster strikes out on a breaking ball to end the inning. The Mets come up with 3 runs on 4 hits, and they lead 5-1 here in the middle of the 5th.
You know, it's amazing how similar we are. We have the same last name. And we both played baseball for the same team. We even drank the same beer, light beer from Miller. And we drink it for the same reason. Light has a third less calories than their regular beer. And it's less filling. But we drink it because it tastes so great. Now, I know we're incredibly alike, but don't be confused. We are not identical twins. I'm at least 2 inches taller than he is.
Make beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
In the Dome, they've scored 5 runs on 9 hits through the first 4.5 innings of play. And as we go to the bottom of the 5th, the 5-1 New York lead. Back to call the play-by-play, Tim McCarver.
Rocking at the Dome, huh? It's like a new rock song as Kevin Bass steps up there. Sid Fernandez has pitched well. They only run a home run by Mark Bailey. He's given up only 3 hits. The Astros have had only 3 base runners. Bottom of the 5th, 5-1 New York. And this one's popped up down the left field line. Gardenhire, the shortstop, over. And that's the idea of watching that fence and the ball. You get to the fence first, and Gardenhire had 2 things to worry about, Steve: George Foster and the fence. Tough play, but it should have been handled.
Well, the thing to do, as you said, is to run to the fence. When you see the ball's going to be that close, you can always come back a few feet if you have to. But go to the fence so you know where it is, where you are in relation to it, and then you can catch the ball.
Yeah, we don't mean to imply that you go to the fence when the ball's fair by 10 feet. I mean,
no.
Obviously. But the idea is to run as hard as you can and get under it, because that ball was really had some hang time. Took a little off of the fastball. 1-1 to Bass.
The Astros have managed only 3 hits off Fernandez so far. Bass has 1 of them.
Curveball is low, 2-1. Vern Rule continues to throw in the Astro bullpen. And should Mike Scott hit in this inning, he's scheduled up 4th, then Bob Lillis will no doubt use a pinch hitter. I don't know about that pitch. Kevin Bass now on a 2-1 count, leading by 4 runs. You're going to throw a guy with not a lot of home run power, breaking ball behind in the count.
Bass has only 1 home run.
Grounded to third, Great play, Brooks. The throw can't get him, but Hubie Brooks on a great play may have re-injured that left wrist. Or he might just be kidding. Come on, Hubie.
He might be exasperated. Sharply hit ball, and a fine stop by Hubie to save an extra base hit at the very least, but couldn't get the throw there in time by the time he got up. But again, a nice stop on a diving backhanded drive. He did land on that wrist. The wrist that's bothered him since he injured it swinging the bat is the glove hand, the left-hand wrist.
Writhing on the ground. We went for the head fake. Kevin Bass has his second hit of the night, and Terry Poole the batter. Nobody out. Bass at first. 5-1 New York leads. Popped up right side. Hernandez calls off everybody, puts his hands on his hips. I've never seen that.
I think he lost that ball for a minute. I think it disappeared. And they have been known to disappear in this ballpark. Not only did it disappear, it was up there a long time. This is your basic Spalding Guide Major League popping. Now watch Hernandez. Where is it? Hey, come back here. Okay, I'll just wait. There it is. Patience is a virtue.
Man, I've heard of good fielders, but I've never seen a guy who brings out his rocking chair, puts his hands on his hips, and waits for the ball.
Now that's the epitome of nonchalanting the play.
I'm telling you. Mark Bailey homered his last time up. This ball misses 1-0.
Bailey, who now has 6 home runs and 21 RBIs and less than 200 at bats, looks like he could hit a few dingers before he's through.
Curveball and a beauty, 1-1.
He's big enough, there's no question about that. And he switch hits, which has to be an advantage. That kind of power.
Oh, the beauty of switch hitting. To know that you never have to bail out. Throw to first base. I used to kid Pete Rose about that. How does it feel for 14,000 at bats never to have to bail out? Good fastball there. 1-2 to Mark Bailey.
Of course, if you face a guy who throws a screwball like Valenzuela, it might be tough to decide which side to hit from.
Interesting point. They say a lot of left-handed screwball pitchers, you should stack your lineup with left-handers. Managers rarely do that, however. It's 2-2 to Bailey. Ray Knight will be the pinch hitter for starting pitcher Mike Scott, unless Bailey grounds into a double play. That's a good sign when a young hitter hits a home run and then comes out and rips a rope the other way the next time up. He hasn't allowed that home run to affect his swing. Ray Knight, the batter, batting .218. Let's see what Ray has done as a pinch hitter. He is 0 for 5 as a pinch hitter. Coming to the Astros after the '81 season. Cesar Cedeno. 2 for his last 43. Boy, has he been struck.
And this is a guy that for a few years you could almost book was going to be a 300 hitter each year.
Has hit 300 2 of the last 3 years. Lifts this one to the right side. And it's out of play. So it's 0-2 to Ray Knight. Getting in a little running there. Ray Knight makes his home in Albany, Georgia. One of his big hobbies is quail hunting. He is quite a hunter. fouled away. Still 0-2. Ray, of course, well chronicled that he is the husband of Nancy Lopez Knight. Just had a child last year. Nancy's back on the links now, isn't she?
Yeah, that's right. She
well,
played this last week.
Curveball, base hit up the middle. Oh, a hanging curveball, and Ray Knight whacks it up the middle. With 2 out, the top of the order, Bill Doran, the batter.
Well, Knight waited. You see him strive to keep the bat back. And that curveball hanging right up there. Slapped it into center field. 5th hit for Houston.
As we pointed out, Ray Knight, who was 2 for 43 coming up there, now 3 for his last 44. Maybe a successful pinch hitting appearance or two. Bring him out of it. The Mets hoping, of course, that it happens after they leave the dome. Bill Doran 0 for 2. He is fly to center and grounded to second. Fly ball center field. That should do it. Mookie Wilson waving off Foster, and he makes the catch. So another strong inning for Fernandez, even though the Astros threatened mildly. They had 2 hits and stranded 2, and after 5, the Mets 5, the Astros 1. Now a word from Michelob Light.
For Mike Scott here in the 6th inning, making his 27th appearance of the season. He has made 6 starts, as you see, 1-7 and a 4.04 ERA. He's worked 71 1/3 innings.
And Hubie Brooks will be facing Vern Rule. Hubie is 0 for 2. Make that 1 for 3, as he has now hit safely in 51 of his last 61 ball games.
And a lot of those hits were of that ilk right there. You'll be just reaching out and poking that ball to all fields. That's the 10th hit for New York.
I like that word, ilk.
I know you do. That's why I used it.
Thank you. That's cooperation in the booth.
That's right.
Mike Fitzgerald, the batter. Mike 0 for 2. He fouls it away. By liking it a lot, by knowing that I like it, does that mean that I use it too much? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. No criticism intended.
0-1 to Fitzgerald. And there goes Brooks, and he steals his 4th base of the year. Running on the play, Bailey couldn't find the handle on the low breaking ball. Had to be a hit and run, I would think, Steve.
I would think so too. Mike Fitzgerald gave it kind of a half-hearted swing. Hubie ordinarily does not steal, but he's at second base now with nobody out.
And Mike could be trying to take one shot at right field and move Brooks at, who is at second, move him over to third base with 1 out. Check swing. I doubt that that's what he had in mind, to check swing him to third. 1 and 2.
Usually doesn't work.
No. Nobody out. Brooks at second. 5-1 New York. They have 10 hits. The Astros with 5. Gets by Bailey, and Hubie moves to third easily. I would imagine it's going to be scored a wild pitch.
Well, you'd have to think so. It was way outside and in the dirt. Rolled all the way back before Bailey could corral it. Here it is again. Big breaking pitch, just kept on breaking. Bailey tried to scoop it with the glove instead of getting the body out in front.
So that'll bring the infield in for the 3rd time in the last 2 innings. Hubie at third with none out. Fitzgerald in a good hitting position. And timeout. Vern Rule had taken too much time.
Here's the line on Mike Scott, incidentally. 5 innings, 5 runs, all earned, 9 hits, struck out 1 and walked 1.
A rough outing for Mike Scott. Fastball grounded over the head of Garner. So Hubie Brooks scores easily. And I'll tell you, this inning points up the fact that the Mets, everything has been going their way. Now, they've made their breaks, but this inning, what a weird inning this is.
Well, when you're playing well, things like this happen for you. And that's been the case for New York really all season, but in particular during the last 41 ball games. Hubie Brooks coming home, and for Fitzgerald, his 17th run batted in.
How weird was the inning? Hubie Brooks led it off with a broken bat single to right center as Gardenhire steps up there. He doubled. He's 1 for 2 with a run scored. Fastball inside. Hubie Brooks, not a base running threat, steals second. When Bailey can't come up with it, he goes to third on a wild pitch to bring the infield in, and Fitzgerald gets a hit. And if the infield were normal depth, it wouldn't have been a hit. 1-1. That's when things are going well for you.
You're right.
6-1 New York lead.
But the Mets under Davy Johnson's style of play have made a lot of their own breaks. And this,
got that right.
The early part of this game and their aggressive base running really pointed that out. Mets, incidentally, have now stolen 50 of their last 63 bases and 68 of their last 84.
Slider is low, 2-1. They lead the National League in percentage ratio of being caught. 85 stolen bases, and they've been caught 25 times. 78%. Right off the top of my head, pal. Fastball inside, 3-1.
An even more impressive statistic to point out Davies' aggressive base running. 68 stolen bases now in the last 63 games. So they're doing it consistently.
And there goes the runner. Fastball inside. Gardenhire draws a base on balls, and Fernandez will be up there to bunt.
First walk issued by Rule and the second issued by Houston pitching. Still nobody out in the inning, and here comes Bob Lillis. Nope, that's Jerry Walker.
Solano, the right-hander, is up and throwing. Julio Solano. As Jerry Walker, the pitching coach, now talking to Vern Rule. I'll tell you, when Davey gets you on the ropes, he goes to the whip, doesn't he?
I tell you, heads right for the jugular. Does not let a team up.
That's the way the game should be played, and that's why he's done such a good job. He has allowed Mel Stottlemyre to handle that superb young pitching staff, and he's handled the offense and defensive alignment superbly.
I think, too, that credit should be given to Frank Howard, who has really become his right-hand man in the dugout, and Frank has helped Davey a great deal, being an extra pair of eyes and also an extra person to bounce those thoughts off of when need be.
And Bobby Ballantyne, an excellent third base coach, and Bill Robinson's been handling the hitting. And with Garner charging and Cabell charging, the rotation play on. It's 0-1 to Fernandez. And we can't forget Vern Hoshide getting those bullpenners ready.
I tell you, the coaching staff has brought together a very interesting mixture of veterans and young people. Howard and Hoshide would be the veterans, of course. Ballantyne and Bill Robinson, the youngsters, both not out of baseball very long.
And another bunt attempt as the rotation play was on again. The problem with that play is it leaves the entire middle of the infield open, and a pitcher who handles the bat well can drive it up the middle. But the Astros would feel pretty safe about Sid Fernandez because he hadn't hit all year.
Hasn't even bunted.
Bunted successfully the last time, sacrificing Gardenhire to third. He eventually scored. 6-1 New York leads. Another bunt attempt, and it's foul. So a strikeout victim is one Sid Fernandez. The first strikeout for Vern Rule, the second Met to go down.
Sid dejectedly flipping his bat away as he knew that he did not do the job he went up there to do in 3 tries.
Here's a guy who's done the job. Wally Backman, 3 for 3 on the night, 2 runs scored, and an RBI. What a job Backman has done.
Been a sensational leadoff batter. His average now up to 287 with his 3 for 3 tonight.
There's a strike. You know, Steve, you hate to keep talking in superlatives about this team, but they have been the type of team about which you have to use superlatives.
Been doing everything right.
Yeah. Won 3 out of 4 in Atlanta. They now lead by 1 as the Cubs lost today 4-0. The Phillies, however, who were trailing by 3.5, won their game in Cincinnati 7-2. Fitzgerald at second, Gardenhire at first, and it's 0-2 to Backman.
The exception as far as doing everything right is concerned for about the last couple of weeks was yesterday's game, in which at times the Mets did not play all that well.
Yeah, you'll get beat occasionally, but even that game was a lot closer than the score indicated.
That's right. And those occurrences of erratic play and failing to do the job consistently throughout the lineup have been very rare. Seems like somebody's always come along to pick the ball club up.
I don't know what's going to happen, and nobody knows over the next 2.5 months, but I'll tell you, it's going to be equally surprising and shocking if they win it as it was in 1969. And I think you can say that with some assurity. 1-2 to Backman. Because here's a club finished last year. They lost, what, 94 ball games?
And in addition to that, there were so many changes and so many young players brought up that no one gave them any hope.
Ball hit to the left side. Reynolds to Doran. Turned nicely. Gardenhire trying to take Doran out. But he turns the double play nicely with a nice pivot. And the Mets are down, but they add on another one on 2 hits. No errors and 1 left at the end of 5.5. 6-1 New York.
I've had to write some tough things about some tough guys. But there's one guy I can't write anything bad about. His unique brand of baseball has made him a living legend. So have his commercials. They got me to try his favorite beer, light beer from Miller. Light's less filling, and it really tastes great. So I bought this light for that renowned, yet humble man, Arthur.
Cheer up, Billy. One day you'll be famous just like me.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Mets enjoying a 6-1 lead. Dwight Gooden, the loser in yesterday's ball game.
Steve Garland checking his roll.
Love handles, right?
Well, he's got a deal going with Charlie Samuels, the equipment manager. They've got a bet on to see who can lose the most weight by the end of the season. Charlie says that he thinks it's about time he starts.
Charlie, of course, the equipment manager. Fastball to Craig Reynolds is outside.
I'm sure that's what they were discussing.
Craig Reynolds is 0 for 2. He has flied out twice, once to right, once to left, as Sid Fernandez trying to win his first major league ball game. Grounded right side, base hit, Craig Reynolds.
Reynolds has now hit in 32 of his last 40 games. He really nailed down that shortstop position with his offense after Nicky Thon's injury.
And the batter Phil Garner, scrap iron 0 for 2. He has struck out twice against Fernandez. Hubie Brooks will have to stay alive for a bunt as Garner runs very well. Fastball strike. Garner takes 1-1 to Phil Garner.
In this ball game, unless the Astros get to Sid Fernandez, as you look at Eddie Lynch beginning to warm, or unless Davey takes him out.
Change up and a beauty, 1-2.
There's Ed Fernandez change. We probably may not see Houston's Denny Walling, who hits from the left side and could pinch hit, but before the game, Denny asked me to wish his mother a happy birthday. It's her birthday today. Mrs. Walling lives in New Jersey and catches us here on WOR, so happy birthday.
Curveball is outside, 2-2. Well, while we're on some social business, we have a message up here on a Kleenex. Real classy. Some fans from New Orleans, Louisiana, who watch our games. The Nicotras, Frankie Nicotra, here from New Orleans, just down the road a piece. Just to wish his mom a hello and a get well. She's in the hospital in Long Island, so Francis Nicotra, get well in a hurry. Fly ball, right center, hit well. Mookie over, and he makes the play. Nice play, Mookie Wilson. He went a long way for that ball to record the first out in this inning.
Garner does have good power, and certainly not what you typify as home run power. He hit this ball well the other way. It was just fortunate for New York that it hung up in the air long enough for Mookie to get there, because it was right smack in the gap. Mookie's speed comes to the forefront again.
You can close the gap in a hurry. A lot of room to roam here in the biggest state in the Union. Jose Cruz, the batter, 1 for 2. He singled in the 4th inning. In the continental United States, that is. And you don't get me on a technicality.
You get those letters from Alaska.
Yep, that's right. Texas costs more than Alaska. Alaska for $15 million. Of course, Manhattan, the biggest bargain of them all, 24 beans. This ball fouled back, 0-2.
What I want to know is how they figure that the stuff they traded for the island with was worth $24. I mean, you know, the monetary system wasn't even the same then. One of the quirks of history.
Yeah. Couldn't change a 50 million. Curveball grounded foul, still 0-2.
I mean, why wouldn't they make it something appropriate like subway tokens or something? You're going to trade from Manhattan, right? Do subway tokens.
And then, of course, the Indians moved to Cleveland for a franchise. They're last in the American League East now.
They've done a lot with that $24, though.
Yes, they have. Try to mix in a game here as Fernandez mixes in a strike and strikes out Cruz. 4th strikeout of the ball game.
It's a tough pitch for a left-handed hitter, even for Jose Cruz, who is usually very successful against left-handed pitching, and Fernandez just made a perfect pitch.
And Enos Cabell, the batter. The only run for the Astros was a home run, a solo home run by young Mark Bailey, his 6th of the year. The Mets, meanwhile, have been running the bases with reckless abandon, and Backman can't get to it. It's going to be a base hit for Cabell as Reynolds goes to 3rd, and the Astros have runners at the corners with 2 out.
7th hit in the ball game. As Cabell goes the other way, Wally almost got there. Right underneath his glove. Again, as that ball takes its 3rd hop, it at least has the appearance of picking up speed, and sometimes it's not where you think it's going to be. The first hop has overspin, the second has backspin, and then it kicks forward with overspin again.
Oh, Kevin Bass is the batter. Bass is 2 for 2. He singled twice. There goes Cabell. Breaking ball, no chance for Fitzgerald. Enos Cabell with a calculated attempt, with the Astros down by 5 takes a chance, and it works.
Cabell now has stolen 7 bases in 13 attempts, and it was a bit of a surprise, I'm sure, to the Mets with the score the way it is.
Swing and a miss, 1-1. We mentioned the artificial surface. You would think that the Mets, whose natural terrain is natural grass, would have problems on the surface, but they're 16-8 on the rug.
So far, the only category has been day games. It's been a problem for the Mets.
Fastball is high. Another team, the Atlanta Braves, who has natural grass as their home turf, is 17-7 on artificial surface.
They could use another surface in Atlanta anyway.
Yeah, that's true. 2-1. The Bass, and that's going to be a balk. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Well, you have a young pitcher who made a young mistake right there. No way that Reynolds is going to steal home.
Well, chalk this up to Craig Reynolds as he just bothered Fernandez enough to make him alter his motion. He jumped right off the pitching rubber and fired home, thinking Reynolds was going to come on in. In this ballpark earlier this year, we saw Jose Oquendo of the Mets do the same thing and create a balk from third base to pick up a run.
Yeah, but you're up by 5. Now, really, if you analyze it, and I'm sure Fernandez will analyze it after the game, don't make the same mistake twice. If it bothers you, work from the stretch. But he's back to the windup, and he throws a curve for a strike. Two and 2 to Kevin Bass. Breaking ball, foul ball down the third base line. 6-2 ball game now. Certainly understand a mistake like that in a tie ball game where the run at third would mean something, but obviously a runner's going no place when they trail by 5. A steal of home would be foolish. Bass fouls it back, still 2-2. But young pitchers are going to make mistakes like that.
Now with fastballs, Fernandez has gotten right in Kevin Bass's kitchen. Once he missed it completely, and once he just fouled it back. So we'll see what he does here.
Swing and a miss, he got him. Good fastball. 5th strikeout for Fernandez. But the Astros do score 1 run on 2 hits, no errors and 1 left. And after 6 here at the Dome, the Mets enjoy a 6-2 lead.
I have taken on many fighters and tried many beers. One beer isn't a class by itself. Light beer from Miller. Light tastes great and it's less filling. It weighs in at 1/3 less calories than the regular beer. Yes, I discovered your greatest beer, but I never met your greatest fighter. Hey, who is this Billy Martin anyway?
Billy Martin? He's warm, he's gentle, good looking too.
I got to meet this guy.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
A 6-2 New York lead. Mookie Wilson leads it off, and back in is Ralph Kiner.
All right, Steve Zabriskie and Mookie hits one on the ground to the second base side. Dorn has it, and now Cabell, and 1 pitch and 1 away. Mookie with a triple now and 4 times up. The Mets meet the Astros again tomorrow night, and there's no doubt that your favorite station for sports, Channel 9, will bring you all the action live. Join us for exciting Mets baseball tomorrow night, beginning at 8:30. And for the Mets tomorrow night, it'll be Ron Darling on the mound, going for his 11th win against 3 losses. Here's Keith Hernandez, a double, a run batted in, a walk, and also an out. And Vern Rule on the mound, misses with a fastball. Rule relieving Mike Scott, who worked 5 innings, giving up 5 runs on 9 hits. 2 balls, no strike.
Let's run down the National League for you as all but one game is final. San Diego shut out Chicago 4-0. Thurman the winner there. Montreal beat Atlanta 3-1.
Ground ball to the shortstop. Craig Reynolds, the throw to first base, and easy out.
Pittsburgh won again, defeating L.A. 4-1. Bob Walk the winner in his Pirate debut. And Philadelphia kept pace. They beat Cincinnati 7-2. Kevin Gross the winner in that game. And in St. Louis, San Francisco leads the Cardinals 6-3 in the top of the 6th inning. Rick Ownby, former Met, started that game. He's since been relieved.
And for the Mets, Darryl Strawberry to bat. Darryl with a triple off the glove of the left fielder Jose Cruz his last time up. Darryl 1 for 3. His triple, his second of the year. Vern Rule with a record of 1-7, working in relief of Mike Scott. And he misses inside. 2 balls, no strikes. Strawberry hitting .266 for the year. 12 home runs, 44 runs batted in. And it's a fair ball. An extra base hit for Strawberry. It might go for 3. Played off the wall by Jose Cruz. Strawberry eases in, cruises into second on the double.
And with 2 out, Strawberry, not wanting to make that last out of the inning at third, might have tried to push and cause a play at third base, but wisely holding up at second base as Cruz played the carom very well and made a good throw into the relay man.
So Strawberry 2 for 4 for the night, a triple and a double. And it brings up George Foster, who has 2 hits and 3 times up. Rule tries a curveball. Foster hitting .244. Mets leading 6-2. And the fastball a strike, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike.
Foster has 13 RBIs in the last 16 ball games with that RBI single in the first inning tonight. To give him 45 on the year.
And a breaking ball for a ball, and the count 2-1. The club leader, Keith Hernandez, with 51 runs batted in. And a foul ball. The count 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Hernandez has been driving him into quite a pace too, Ralph.
13 batted in his last 11 games.
17 in his last, or rather 22 RBIs in his last 24 games as well.
2-2. The count to George Foster, and the curveball hit down the line. It's a fair ball. Strawberry comes in to score. Ball bounces away from Jose Cruz. Foster will try for 3. He could try for an inside the park home run. Cruz kind of trotting after the ball. Here comes Foster, and he gets an inside the park home run. And Jose Cruz just jogging after the ball as it got by him. And it might be a grounds rule double. Evidently, the ball touched out there somewhere, and Foster will go back to second, but he does get an RBI. Let's look at it again.
Well, that's why Jose pulled up. You see the ball right over the bag. Garner giving it a diving try. And right there, its trajectory changed by a fan, I guess, reaching over the railing. You see home plate umpire Randy Marsh has signaled it immediately, and I'm sure the third base umpire, Bob Engel, also made the call. George kept running, and properly so, taking nothing for granted. And apparently that fellow right there, trying to snag it, hit it. Davy's going to go out and talk about it.
The umpires have the right to award anything they want to. They can give him a home run. It isn't automatic if a fan touches the ball. And evidently, Dave Johnson is saying he really didn't do anything to change the arc of the ball. Carom off the fence. Got by Cruz. Cruz nowhere near it, so Davey Johnson taking up the cause for George Foster.
You know, Ralph, it brings up an interesting point, too, about the home team benefiting from something that the home fans did. on third base.
Well, Davey losing the argument. Foster back to second base. Mets now leading by a score of 8-2, and the batter coming up. Make that 7-2, and the batter coming up is Hubie Brooks. Hubie in this game with a base hit and 3 times up. And the fastball for a strike. After home plate umpire Randy Marsh got hit by that foul ball, he's been calling the strikes with his other hand. Normally the strike call is with the right hand. Curveball back, and it's a strike. Good breaking ball. The count at strike 2. Mets coming up with another multiple hit game. 13 base hits to go with their 7 runs. It's 7-2. And a base hit to right field. Foster going to third. Being waved in. Poole throwing home, and the throw is not in time, and the Mets now lead 8-2. Hubie getting the run batted in on the single to right field. He took second on the throw home, and the Mets now adding another.
Excellent base running by Hubie Brooks, and again a big 2-out hit. Hubie has just been smoking his second hit as he drives in his 35th run of the year. After 2 are out, back-to-back doubles plated 1, and Hubie plates the second one with a single to right. George getting some relief. He ran all the way around once, then had to go back to second and do it again. Rafael Santana teasing him a little bit, trying to feel his pulse.
Get out the oxygen. Well, it's 8-2. The Mets can enjoy it. The batter now is Mike Fitzgerald, who's had 1 hit and 3 times up, and that's ball 1. Mike drove in a run with the infield in on a bouncing base hit over third. Vern Rule back and missing inside, and the count 2 balls and no strikes. Joe Sambito throwing in the bullpen. Rule has been hit hard since he has been in the ball game. He came in the 6th. He has given up 5 base hits. And another one hit hard to right center field. It'll be extra bases. Brooks comes in to score. Fitzgerald on his way to second base and slamming on the brakes and holding there. So the barrage continues as the Mets pound on Vern Rule. Fitzgerald gets his second base hit. Let's look at it again.
And it's Fitzy's second RBI. He now has 18. And how prophetic was Davy Johnson when he said prior to the All-Star break, just wait till this club starts hitting, to go along with the excellent pitching they've been getting. And lately we've been seeing that since the All-Star break. The Mets now with 15 hits and 9 runs in 6 2/3 innings. Bob Lillis apparently going to make a double switch as he goes to home plate umpire Randy Marsh before bringing Joe Sambito into the game. Mike Fitzgerald at second, 3 doubles and a single, and 3 runs scored in this inning. Kevin Bass, the center fielder, is going to be lifted along with Rule. So the pitcher will bat in Bass's spot, number 6 in the order. Bass made the last out in the 6th inning.
And the Mets will get a chance to see the New York native. Dennis Walling going into the center field position. Joe Sambito. Sambito missed all of 1983. One time a standout left-handed relief pitcher for the Houston Ball Club.
And he's been doing a pretty decent job, Rob, since he came back. His ERA is only 1.11. As you see, he has no one-loss record nor saves, but he has appeared in now 16 ball games. He's pitched 24 1/3 innings. He's allowed 11 hits, only 3 earned runs. He's walked only 8 and struck out 11 in those 24 1/3 innings of work. So Joe's arm problem seems to be over.
And it was more than an arm problem. He had surgery on a complete rupture of the medial ligament, and a tendon was taken from his right leg to reconstruct the ligament. Twice in 1983, surgery was performed to remove scar tissue. So Joe Sambito, who did not play in 1983 for Houston, now back in action.
Well, we gave you the National League rundown earlier. Let's run down the American League. Detroit rolls on, beating the White Sox 7-1. Baltimore defeated Minnesota 3-1, Storm Davis's 8th victory. Texas has scored 4 in the top of the 9th inning, and the Yankees batting in the bottom of the 9th. Texas 8, New York 4. They're in the 9th inning in Kansas City with the Royals leading Cleveland 3-1. No score in the first inning, Toronto at California. Also Boston and Oakland and Milwaukee at Seattle. No score yet.
And it will be Ron Gardenhire to test Joe Sambito. Sambito attended Bethpage High School at Adelphia University. On the mound for the Houston Astros. He had a tryout with the Mets in 1970, but wasn't signed. He had a sore arm at the time. Later on, signed for $2,500.
Another one of those bargain babies as opposed to bonus babies, right?
And the first pitch of fastball.
Walling, incidentally, will bat 9th in the order, and Sambito, as we said, will bat 6th. If he bats at all.
Pitch back to Gardenhire, called strike. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. Back in 1975, Sambito was invited to spring training as a non-roster player. His father was dying of cancer. And Joe remembers walking into the bedroom and whispering in his father's ear, "Dad, I'm leaving now. I'm on my way to the big leagues." 2 days later, his father died. And a base hit into center field. Another run will score as Fitzgerald comes on in, and the Mets continue to pound away.
Gardenhire's 2nd hit of the night, and he drives in his 9th run of the year. He didn't get all of it, but he got enough of it to get it over Bill Doran's head. And Fitzgerald, rounding 3rd, scored easily on the play. This is the 4th run scored in the inning, and that run charged to Vern Rule. So the book closes on Rule. He gives up 4 runs on 5 hits in an inning and 2/3 of work, walking 1 and striking out 1.
Actually charged with 5 runs, a run back in the 6th inning.
Well, that's
so
right.
He really had a rough outing. And now the batter will be Sid Fernandez. And Fernandez fouls off a fastball. Well, Fernandez must be saying, where has this all been?
He lost some tough ball games down at Tidewater for that 6-5 record.
Now leading by a score of 10-2. Sambito back, and the ball chopped out over the mound. Might be a base hit. A tough play for Reynolds. He can't handle it. It'll go as a base hit. So Fernandez gets a base hit. His first as a New York Met. He makes a turn at first base. They tag him, and he's going to be out. So Fernandez, not realizing that he made a move towards second base, turns inside the line. Houston picks it up, tags him, and that ends the inning. Rather a merciful ending to a tough inning for Houston. So in the inning, the Mets score 4 runs after 2 men were out. They had 6 hits, and 1 man was left on base. And the score at the end of 6.5 innings, the Mets 10 and Houston 2.
As a relief pitcher, everybody thought I had it easy. See Pat here? He'd pitch his heart out for 8 innings or so, and then I'd come in, toss 3 or 4 pitches, and walk away with a win. But I had to train just like the rest of us. Yeah, well, I still like to keep in shape, and I drink light beer from Miller. See, light's less filling, and light really tastes great. Will you just let me finish? Why? You never let me finish.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Let me finish that for you, Sparky.
Well, there's some controversy on whether or not Fernandez touched the bag at first. Let's look again.
Well, you have to remember, Sid hasn't hit in a long time. I don't even know if he had any at-bats when he was playing in Los Angeles with the Dodgers. And whether or not he touched first base is in question. But he turns in towards second base rather than continuing on down the line and going back to first, leisurely rounding the bag.
So Fernandez on the mound now, throws his first pitch as we go to the bottom half of the 7th, and Terry Poole puts it in the air, and Mookie Wilson makes the play. Fernandez lost a base hit, I don't know whether he gets a hit or not. The official score is checking to see whether or not he touched the bag and then turned in, or whether he missed the bag entirely, and we'll know that maybe a little bit later on. But he has maybe lost the battle, but he's winning the war as he leads by a score of 10-2. And the next batter is Mark Bailey, who has accounted for a run with a home run. And a drive to left center. It'll be a base hit. Mookie over, drops it. It bounces into Foster's hands. Bailey on his way to second. He goes in. This game is getting out of hand. All kinds of plays are taking place.
We'll have to see how they score it. I would think it would be a double. Bailey getting up very slowly. Kelvin Chapman is now in to play second base. This ball hit very hard. Mookie's there to knock it down. Foster backing up on the play, throws it in, and I would have to think there'd be no error credited in that instance. And Chapman, who just came into the game, can't field it. It hits Bailey, almost knocks him out, and caroms back toward the outfield. Welcome to the Marx Brothers play baseball here. Boink. That's why you wear your helmet on the base paths as well as at home plate.
Well, back in 1952, they did not wear fiberglass helmets. They started wearing them in Pittsburgh. I was on the ball club, and the general manager, Branch Rickey, said that we should wear them all the time in the field and at the plate. At that time, everybody was mad at him because he said, we're not that bad a fielder.
little rep at the outfielders, I guess. These fly balls are dangerous.
Well, we just got word from the official score. They are crediting Fernandez with a base hit, and he was then tagged out for turning towards second base instead of continuing on down the line. So a runner at second base. Bailey okay. And we have Dennis Walling as the batter. Walling hitting .222. And Walling takes a called strike.
Walling has not been hitting against left-handed pitching, but when Bob Lillis made the double switch, he put Denny into center field.
And the fastball fouled back. Strike two the count.
Denny told me before the game that he has faced Fernandez, his one other appearance against Houston when he was with Los Angeles last year. And Ed Lynch is up and throwing again for the New York Mets in the bullpen.
Two strikes to count, and Walling gets a curveball. Goodbye. Sixth strikeout for Fernandez in his debut with the New York Mets.
Sid has a good curveball, and boy, I'll tell you, this again, a tough pitch to a left-handed hitter. Ball breaking down and away, froze him.
So Fernandez, who had appeared in one other game in the major leagues prior to this one, that was with the Dodgers. And he has 6 strikeouts in this one with the Mets, and it brings up Bill Doran, who hits a fly ball to center field, and that should do it. Mookie puts it away. 1 hit, a man left at second, and the score at the end of 7, the Mets 10 and Houston 2. And now a word from the good old guy.
15. We got this game won.
Yeah, you guys are buying a light beer from Miller.
Yeah, nice Philly.
1 out to go. Yeah, what can he do to us now?
Hey, keep the change. Here's Rodney.
Any pinch hitters left? Here I am.
Come on, Lee!
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Hey, wait a minute. This game isn't over yet. I caught that ball.
Well, we're going now to the mid half of the 8th inning, the top half. It'll be Kelvin Chapman to bat. Chapman replaced Wally Backman at second base in the bottom half of the 7th inning. Backman being rested after a 3-for-4 night. Chapman brings a .328 average to the plate. He has no home runs and 5 RBIs. leading by a score of 10-2. They have 10 runs on 17 hits. The Astros have 2 runs on 8. Neither side has made an error, although if you have been watching this ball game, you've seen some weird plays.
There's no way that any of those plays could be scored errors, but they're certainly unorthodox. And you know, Ralph, it seems like the Astrodome lends itself quite often to unusual plays because of the hardness of the artificial surface here and the dimensions of the ballpark.
So Joe Sambito working to Kelvin Chapman, and the first pitch is fouled away. Chapman brought up from Tidewater after the Mets had played an exhibition game in Tidewater. He had a big night against the Mets, and right away they said, let's bring him up. He has fitted in. That is Danny Heap in the on-deck circle. Davey Johnson has put this ball club together like a jigsaw puzzle. A piece here and a piece there and a couple of pieces there. 2 balls and a strike. He has utilized Chapman, Backman, Gardenhire, and Oquendo in the infield. At second and short, they have all contributed. Fastball fouled off. And the count of 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Well, Kelvin has been nothing short of amazing because he's done the job whether he's been called upon to start or in this instance come in and relieve Wally late in the ball game or pinch hit. He's delivered some big pinch hits for the Mets as well, and an unlikely pinch hitting role.
2-2 the count. And the count remains at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Chapman made his debut with the Mets in 1981. Singled his first time up against the Cubs. That didn't keep him in the major leagues. He went back to the minors, worked his way back up this year. And another base hit. So Chapman gets in the act. A single to center field. The Mets get their 18th base hit.
And a quality at bat by Chapman as he fouled off some tough ones from Sambito. Well, there's a Channel 9 special upcoming this Thursday evening. Take a musical tour of 3 decades of rock and roll. Join host Dick Clark along with Laura Branigan and Chuck Berry as they highlight great moments in rock and roll history from the 50s up to today's music. Dick Clark's Rock Rolls On this Thursday at 8:30 here on Channel 9.
And the Mets roll on as they have a base runner on here in the 8th, leading 10-2, and the batter is Danny Heap. Danny batting for the first time, hitting at .305 for the year with 1 home run and 9 RBIs.
Incidentally, Ralph, the Yankees came up with 4 runs in the bottom of the 9th after Texas had scored 4 in the top of the 9th, and the Yankees won that ball game 9-8.
And the fastball fouled back. 1 ball, 1 strike. Danny Heap replacing Mookie Wilson. Mookie with a triple and 4 times up tonight. Yankees now have won 6 in a row. Hot club in baseball, the Pittsburgh Pirates. They have won 7 straight. One of the hot clubs, and the swing, no contact, 1-2.
Danny Heap, incidentally, hitting .407 with 5 RBIs in his last 9 ball games. Seems like just about every Met is in the high 300s, low 400s. Some kind of streak.
And Sambito misses with that one. It's 2-2. Pitcher record on the losing side is Mike Scott, the starter. He gave up 5 runs while working 5 innings. And it goes to 3-2. Enos Cabell is playing behind the runner at first base. And will give Chapman a chance to be moving on the pitch if the Mets so decide. Or better still, if Davey Johnson so decides, the manager.
He's the only Met that counts, right?
Right. Chapman does not go, and the ball is popped up. Reynolds Wells, the shortstop, making the call. The wind gets it and it moves over a little bit, and he makes the catch.
Yeah, that 1 mile an hour breeze coming out of those air conditioning vents can really play tricks with that ball.
You know, in the early days here, the people would swear that they had the wind, which would be the air conditioning, blowing out when Houston batted and blowing in when the other teams hit.
Impossible.
I'd like to have that kind of a system in my house.
There you go.
Here's Keith Hernandez. Keith with a double and 3 times up, a run batted in. And Sambido with his first delivery, ball 1. And that's ball 2. 2-0 the count. Tomorrow night it'll be Darling, Ron Darling, going against Niekro, Joe Niekro, and that puts a count at 3-0. We'll be on the air with that one at 7:30. Darling with a record of 10-3. And he brings a 7-game winning streak into the game, personal. 3-0 pitch, and it's a called strike. We'll also be televising the game on Wednesday night at 7:30. It'll be Walt Terrell against Nolan Ryan. Then on to Cincinnati. 3-1 the count to Keith Hernandez. And it's ball 4. So Hernandez gets another walk. That's his second in this ball game, his 52nd of the year. He moves Chapman down to second base. And now with runners at first and second and 1 away, the batter will be Darryl Strawberry. Strawberry, in all likelihood, will move to center field with Danny Heap going to right with Mookie Wilson out of the game. Strawberry has tripled and doubled in 4 times. And a base hit to right field. Chapman rounding third base, waved on in. He'll come in to score. And the Mets lead by a score of 11-2 as Strawberry gets his 3rd hit of the ball game and his 2nd run batted in.
Well, now the Mets with 19 hits tonight, and this surpasses their previous team high of 18 against Cincinnati July 7. Strawberry seems to be picking up the pace. He has a single, a double, and a triple now, and he drives in yet another run number 46.
So Chapman in some by-play on the bench, good-natured by-play if you just happen to tune in. The Mets are enjoying this one as they lead by 9, and the batter coming up is George Foster. Foster is 3 for 4 tonight. Foster singled in a run in the 1st inning, led off the 4th with an infield base hit, and doubled in a run in the 7th. And that's strike 1. Foster now hitting .246. Batting for the first time against Joe Sambido. Mike Lacoste starting to toss in the bullpen for Houston. And a fly ball out to shallow center. Might drop in. And it will. Another broken bat base hit as Foster drops in a single. Coming in to score is Hernandez. And the Mets now lead by a score of 12-2. Well, Foster can't do anything wrong here of late. He's had about 5 broken bat base hits. And here's another one.
Well, it'll look like a frozen rope tomorrow as he drives in his 3rd run of the ball game. And Foster just been red hot. As you said, Ralph, he seems to get all kinds of base hits. He even has an infield single in this ball game. George now with 47 RBIs. Hernandez scores yet another run.
Man, And they all count, and they all look like line drives in the newspaper as we have a conference on the mound. Reminds me of the story about Babe Herman, the great Brooklyn Dodger player. He got 3 hits in the ball game. The next day in the paper, it only showed 2. And he got mad, and he went to the official scorer, who was a newspaper man. And the official scorer said to him it was a typographical error. Babe Herman said, "Error, heck," he said. It was a clean single to right.
Did he really say heck?
No, I think he was a little stronger than that.
20 hits now to go with 12 runs for New York. Incidentally, this is the first time ever that the Mets have won 4 straight games here in the Astrodome, as this one seems to be out of reach.
And now Hubie Brooks, the batter. Hubie with a base hit his last 2 times up, 2 for 4.
Some kind of line score right there.
And the fastball for ball 2. Early in the Met history, the Mets beat the Cubs 19-1, and the fellow who was playing runs for the week called up the radio station and said, "How many runs did the Mets score?" The fellow answered 19, and he said, "Great." And then he thought a minute, and he said, "Did they win?" And the fastball is missed. 2-1 the count. Strawberry at third, Foster at first. 1 man out. Top of the 8th inning. The Mets leading 12-2. Mets have never enjoyed success here in the Astrodome. This will be the year that the Mets will win a series here for the first time in a long, long time. And this ball fouled back. In 1969, when the Mets became the world's champions, they did not win a game here in the Astrodome all year long. They ended up winning 100 games for the year, but none here.
And they were not the only club, and have not been the only club throughout the history of the Houston franchise in the Astrodome, to have problems in this ballpark. This has been home cooking for the Astros.
And the 2-2 pitch, a fastball for ball 3. So Sanvito with a full count of 3-2, working to Hubie Brooks. And the pitch. Strike 3. Sanvito picks up a strikeout. That is his first. He came in the game in the 7th inning. And now with 2 men out, the batter will be Mike Fitzgerald. Mike has a single and a double in 4 appearances here today.
And as you see, also 2 RBIs. Mike, of course, had a big series in Atlanta, particularly last Thursday night when he drove in the tying and then the winning run.
And that's ball 1. Fitzgerald has had 14 hits in his last 10 ball games. He has been picking up. Batting at .249 now.
Coming into tonight, he had raised his average 31 points in just the last 9 games.
The 1-0 pitch. Fouled back into the stands.
Well, with the Mets picking up 20 hits in this ball game tonight, you might wonder what is the record for the most hits in a game. Well, they're a little short. It's 36 by the Phillies, August 17th, 1894. That's the record since 1900. The New York Giants in 1901 against Cincinnati had 31 hits in a ball game. Of course, the game's not over yet.
2 balls, 1 strike. I wonder if Tim McCarver was playing for the Phillies then. Have to ask him about
You're
that.
in big trouble now. You hear the crowd chanting, "Let's go Mets." These are Houston fans, folks.
All the Houston fans have left. And another drive for a base hit. Coming in the score from third is Strawberry. Going to second base is Foster, and Fitzgerald now with 3 hits and 5 times up as we look at it again.
And 3 RBIs. Thursday night was Fitzy's first Major League 3 RBI game, and he gets another one here. this may be a new high of 13 runs against Houston. And remember, they are doing this tonight. The Mets are doing it against the #1 pitching staff in the National League. Houston came in leading the league with a 3.10 team ERA.
It's being destroyed here tonight. And now it's Ron Gardenhire. And he hits it in the air to left center field. That should do it. So in the last 2 innings, the Mets have sent 8 men to the plate. They have scored 7 runs in the last 2 innings on 10 base hits. In this inning, 3 runs on 4 hits and 2 men left on base. And the score at the end of 7.5 innings, the New York Mets 13 and Houston 2.
We're here at the 18th hole of this light beer open, and we've seen some real unusual shots today.
You said it.
Hey, Bob, I think you got a birdie.
Elsie, how am I supposed to hit it through this tree?
No problem, Bert.
How's Yuka going to get out of this one?
That calls for another light beer from Miller.
Make it 2, 3, 4. It's a good thing light's less filling.
John, the last player's approaching the tee.
And when it goes to 100, you sell. I won't be long, girls. Hold my calls, will you? It hit the weather vane. It's in the drain. Here it comes out. It's going on the green. It's going in the hole.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
This open ought to be closed.
Well, the Mets 13 runs, 21 hits, no errors. Houston 2 runs, 8 hits and no errors. And Ed Lynch will be the new pitcher for the Mets. He has a record of 7-5, an earned run average of 4.00. He has walked 12 and struck out 35. Ed picking up his first save his last time out. And he is relieving Sid Fernandez, who has made his debut with the Mets. And what a debut it was. Fernandez getting 13 runs as the Mets lead 13-2. Now for the play-by-play, Steve Zabriskie.
Thank you, Ralph. Here is Craig Reynolds to lead it off. Reynolds is 1 for 3 with a single to right and a run scored. And he takes a strike from Ed Lynch. 13 runs, 21 hits and no errors for the Mets. 2 runs on 8 hits and no errors for the Astros. And it's 1-1. Interesting, Ralph, that Fernandez did not walk a batter. One of the raps against him in spring training and apparently when he was with the Dodgers. And he did have control problems in Tidewater the first part of the year, but that was his inability to get the ball in the strike zone. That just missed, apparently, with 2-1.
And in the early part of the ball game, through the first 4 innings, it was a 2-1 game in favor of the Mets. So he was working under the gun at that time.
Second, Chapman gobbles it up, 1 away.
And Getty would like to present the star of the game. It's the official scorekeeper. Not really. Sid Fernandez for performing miles ahead of himself in tonight's ball game. And in his first start for the New York Mets, we're pleased to present him with a Getty certificate. At Getty, the proof is at the pump.
Phil Garner now, who's 0 for 3. Garner struck out twice and flied to center on a fine play by Mookie Wilson in the 6th inning. Check swing, foul ball, and the count is 0-2.
Well, my daughter here at the ball game was raised with the Mets back in the early days, starting with 1962. She hadn't seen them play for quite some time. She said, "Are you sure?"
Sure these are the Mets?
In the ballpark here tonight.
Well, Tim McCarver, with the magic of mathematics, has told us that they have raised their team average as Garner strikes out for the 3rd time in the game. The Mets so far in this ball game have raised their team average 4 points. Well, tomorrow on the 4 o'clock movie, a controversial presidential appointment leads to an excellent drama on both the dirt and dignity of political life. Henry Fonda heads an all-star cast and advise and consent. We'll miss the conclusion of this classic tomorrow at 4 here on Channel 9. Jose Cruz 1 for 3, had a single to center in the 4th inning. He has also flied to left and struck out. And then he takes a strike, and it's 0-2 to Cruz. Now. Hey, there are a lot of fans here enjoying themselves too. There aren't a lot of fans here at all, really, but those that are seem to be enjoying this runaway by the Mets. Cruz slaps it out of play, still 1-2. Eddie with a 7-5 record started the year in the bullpen, pitched excellently. Got a shot to start in the first part of May and pitched very well for his first few starts and then struggled. And he's back in the bullpen now. 7-5 record with 1 save. Has no chance to pick up a save in this ball game.
This is the time he can really experiment, do what he wants, try some new pitches.
Close pitch, but it missed, and it's down 3-2. The middle, base hit into center field. First hit off Ed Lynch, and the 9th hit in the ball game for Houston, and it comes with 2 out here in the 8th inning.
Well, one thing about Jose Cruz, he just cruises right along. He is batting close to 500 in his last 20-some ball games. What a hitter this guy had.
And right now at the 300 mark for the year with 2 for 4 tonight. Enos Cabell has also been an excellent hitter for the Houston Astros since they reacquired him, I should say, from Detroit. Enos had a single to right center and a stolen base in the 6th inning. He's 1 for 3. And he lofts on into center field, and Gardner can't quite get it. Strawberry up with it. Cruz will go into third base, and with 2 out, Houston has runners at first and third. Jerry Mumphrey will be the pinch hitter. Mumphrey hitting .278 on the year, 6 homers and 53 RBIs, and for a good part of the year was well over 300 until he took a horrendous nosedive. Switch hitter will be batting left-handed against Lynch, and he's 1 for 5 as a pinch hitter with a run driven in.
Acquired from the Yankees for Omar Marino. Straight up deal.
He's done a good job until hitting the skids along with a few other Houston hitters. Ball 1. Two out singles here have given the remainder of this crowd something to cheer about. They'll cheer now as Mumphrey drives in a run. Danny Heap fires it into second base, and it's first and third once again. And now it's 13-3. Or rather, New York leading. Mumphrey's 54th RBI. And here's Terry Poole. Poole 0 for 3. One to center field. This should end it as Strawberry is there and puts it away. A run on 3 hits and 2 left. Here in the 8th inning, we'll go to the 9th. A comfortable 10-run lead for the New York Mets.
I'll tell you, we never realized golf was such a tough game.
Hey, it's a lot easier hitting a quarterback than a little white ball. So us Linksters drink light beer from Miller.
Not just because light tastes great, but because it's got a third less calories than a regular beer.
And it's less filling.
And you can't afford to get filled up when you're out there trying to get birdies.
Yeah, those things move awfully fast.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
another Houston pitcher, the fourth of the night, making his 8th appearance. He's pitched only 17 in the 3rd innings, as you see, a good 2.08 ERA. No saves, and he has walked 4 and struck out 8 in those 17 in the 3rd innings of work. And here in the 9th inning, he will be pitching to Eddie Lynch, batting 9th, and then the top of the order, Kelvin Chapman and Danny Heap, as the Mets once again sent 8 to the plate in the 8th. Ball way inside.
Hey, Eddie's saying, I didn't do all that hitting. This is my first time at bat. Why throw at me?
Wasn't me, partner. It's fouled back, and it's 1-1. These 13 runs scored here tonight by the Mets, the most ever by a New York team here in the Astrodome. And should Sid Fernandez hold on with a 10-run lead in the 9th, it'll be the first win by a left-handed starter for the Mets since September of 82, when Pete Falcone beat St. Louis 4-1. Eddie's up there to get his hacks, I think, Ralph.
He's going to enjoy it.
2-2. Ed batting 158. And now 3-2 as Solano has been messing inside and high.
Solano, another ball player from the Dominican Republic. He lives in La Romana. They have 2 great golf courses down there if you play golf.
And Lynch stays alive, fouling it back, and it's 3-2 still.
Solano, sort of a rags to riches story. He went to spring training in 1983 on a minor league roster. Looked so good he was moved up to the major league roster and started that year with Houston, but then was sent down.
And a called 3rd strike. So Solano picks up his 9th strikeout of the year and his first in the ball game. Only the 4th strikeout recorded by Houston. And Kelvin Chapman, who singled in the 8th inning, will be the hitter. Chapman also scored 1 of 3 runs the Mets plated after scoring 4 in the 7th. Every Mets starter has a base hit. The only players to play in the game for New York that haven't gotten a base hit to this point are Danny Heap, who's 0 for 1, and Ed Lynch. Even Sid Fernandez was 1 for 3. There aren't many left. And that's why. Tim McCarver handed me a note that says, I wonder how Randy Marsh's arm feels now. He was looking for a 2-1 ball game and we'll get out of here in a hurry, but it didn't turn out that way. Ground ball foul outside of 3rd.
Randy Marsh, the umpire behind home plate, hit by a foul ball right on the right elbow early in the ball game.
Well, the bullpen is loose. I guess they're not expected to get the call here. Strike called, and Chapman didn't like it, but he's out of there. Solano has struck out 2.
Breaking ball this time, moves out, and it's called a strike by Randy Marsh, who I'm sure is happy that he could call it a strike to get this game over. Not that he'd do it on purpose.
Randy does want to go back to the hotel. Danny Heap batting with 2 out and nobody on in the 9th, and he takes a strike. Incidentally, the most hits ever by the New York Mets, and they have 21 right now, is 23 hits in a game. So that record would appear safe unless Heap can get a base hit and be followed by Fernandez and Strawberry, and they would also be successful.
That was that 19-1 win by the Mets over the Cubs early in their career.
Another strike called on the fastball. It's 1-2.
Jack Fisher was the winning pitcher of that 19-1 game over the Cubs. And a guy named Smith went 5 for 5, the first Met to ever do it.
That's too high. 2-2. Right here, it's 13-3, New York leading. 2 out in the top of the 9th. Danny Heap grounds it foul, and the count holds 2-2. Danny inserted into the lineup for Mookie Wilson. Batted for Mookie in the 8th inning after Mookie was 1 for 4 with a triple and an RBI. Julio Solano is trying to strike out the side, but it's another 3-2 count. Stays alive, much to the consternation of Randy Marsh, I'm sure. It's 3-2 still.
Solano wearing number 52. I wonder if that's in anticipation of the United States going to 52 states. Talking about Fernandez wearing number 50 for the 50th state.
Well, if it happened, it would probably be Puerto Rico ahead of the Dominican Republic. Heap hits it deep to right field on a line. Poole will have to play it off the wall. Danny Heap going to second. He's going to round and head for third as the ball careened back in. Walling picks it up, but it's a triple for Heap. So everybody in the lineup, with the exception of Ed Lynch, has at least one base hit for the Mets tonight, and they have a total of 22.
Well, look at it again. It's a fastball on the 3-2 pitch, and Heap gets it. Drives it over Poole's head. It takes a bad carom off the fence, and it's fielded in center field by Walling. And Heap, who was traded from Houston to the Mets for Mike Scott, who is the pitcher of record on the losing side of this ball game, ends up with a stand-up 3-base hit.
That's his second triple of the year, the second triple by the Mets in this ball game. Actually, the third. Mookie Wilson and Darryl Strawberry each have a triple, and Keith Hernandez has a double and 2 walks and 2 runs scored. And he looks at a strike. Is 1 for 3 with an RBI. One and one. Keith came into tonight third in the National League in hitting at .318, and that's where his average is right now after going 1 for 3 so far. And he grounds one to second baseman Bill Doran, who will throw over to Cabell, and the inning is over. A hit and 1 left here in the 9th for New York, as they fall short of the club record for hits in a ball game, and they'll take their 10-run lead into the bottom of the 9th, leading 13-3 after this word from Michelob Light. This week, anchorperson Sarah Lee Kessler brings you live coverage from the Democratic National Convention in San Francisco. Tune in to News 9 at noon and News 9 prime time at 8 o'clock for the inside story on the convention in San Francisco. Bailey leading it off against Eddie Lynch, now batting left-handed. The switch-hitting catcher has a home run and a double in 3 trips tonight, and is one of the few bright spots offensively for the Astros. He'll be followed by Denny Walling and then Bill Doran. 13-3, the Mets leading the Astros in this first of a 3-game series. 2-0, now 3-0. Gave up a run on 3 hits in the 8th inning after getting the first 2 hitters. And he walks Bailey to lead off tonight. So Bailey's been on base 3 times in 4 trips, and the other time up, he lined out hard to the right fielder.
And that's the first walk given up by Met pitchers in this game. Checking out the scoreboard. San Diego beat the Cubs 4-0. Thurman, the winning pitcher, 6-5. Ruthven, the loser, 2-6. Montreal over Atlanta, 3-1. Schatzeder, the winning pitcher, and Camp, the loser. Pittsburgh over the Dodgers, 4-1. Walk, the winning pitcher. Honeycutt, the loser.
0-2 on Walling.
Philadelphia over Cincinnati, 7-2. And St. Louis and San Francisco in the top of the 9th.
And a ball outside, 1-2.
San Francisco leading 7-6 after 8. In the American League, Detroit 7, Chicago 1, Baltimore 3, Minnesota 1, Yankees 9, Texas 8.
And a fly ball into left center field. Foster coming hard, and he makes the catch, one away.
Kansas City beat Cleveland 3-1. At the end of 3, California 2, Toronto nothing. At the end of 3, Boston 2, Oakland 1. At the end of 2.5, Seattle 3, Milwaukee 2.
And here's Bill Doran, the leadoff batter, with 1 out, and Mark Bailey at first base. Doran 0 for 4, has grounded to second and then flied to center field 3 times in a row. Inside, ball 1. This game right now 3 hours old. Ball 2. Foul back right above us. 2 balls, 1 strike.
Longest game the Mets ever played here in Houston was a 1-0 24-inning night game. The Mets were scheduled to fly to New York after that game. They got there the next day at 9.
Could be a double play to end it. Gardenhire on the relay, and it's over. A 4-6-3 double play as Ed Lynch closes the door. And the Mets have scored the most runs ever they've been able to manage here in the Astrodome. 13-3, the 10-run victory on 22 hits over the Houston Astros. The Astros have had 2 tough ball games. They played 16 innings last night, but they won that one over the Phillies. So Sid Fernandez in his New York debut, the winner. And Ralph and I'll be back to wrap it up for you, so stay with us here on WOR. We're back to the Astrodome after this word from Express Mail.